Hey everybody, ReefGrrl here, and welcome to ReefGrrl Live. I'm so glad you could make it. The whole idea here is to have some fun, chat, ask a few questions, maybe show us what you're doing, and get to know each other a little bit better. So sit back, relax, grab a drink. The stream is about to begin. Hi everybody, here we are Sunday live stream worldwide, and my view count is showing 2. So awesome, you guys came back. I see there were a couple comments already. Hey Benny, Filipino Reefer, and Skinner JW. Nice of you guys to come by. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day here where I live, and I think it could be that people are out enjoying the weather today. So we'll see how it goes. And I don't know, Benny or Skinner, JW. Oh, there's William Peace Jr. Hey, William Peace Jr. If anyone wants to come in and share their tank, that would be awesome. Lights should be on. Don't have any emails asking for the link, so why don't I show you some pictures? So it's been an interesting week. We brought Mollywood home, and I did a brief post on Instagram about that. We're rebranding it as the OT. It's the observation tank. And I have plans for that tank already. I will be picking up some new fish probably in a week or so. Where we live is new. It's all going on this week. Outside, grading, sod, trees getting planted, concrete. Like there's something going on every day. So I'm not going to be able to go and get the fish until some of that stuff settles down a little bit. So probably next weekend, and then I'll be able to tell you all about the fish. Second thing is I ordered some coral. Yeah, I broke down because Mollywood is back. Oh, sorry. Because I now have the OT under my roof, I can put a frag rack in there and I have space. The water quality in that tank has always been really good. I haven't had any problem growing SPS. So I will show you guys. Oh, there's 5 people here now. Hi. I will show you guys some pictures of the things that I ordered. This is all one order. Now, when I was looking at the pictures, I tried to imagine in my mind, no Photoshop. So always bearing in mind there's some degree of filtering and manipulation. We'll see what I get when I get them. So I got this. Looks kind of pretty. I like the smooth-ish skin. Don't know what it is. Doesn't really have a name, but that's okay. I'm good with that. And I got this one. Might be the same as the other one, but in a different light. Not sure. I'm always fond of yellowish green. Then we got this one, which is a chalice. I've wanted a chalice of this type for quite a while with the multiple colors in it. And we got this one. Looks like a plum and kind of a yellow color. So I'm hoping it's true to reality when I get it, or at least that I can get it to look this way under my tank lights. And we got this one, which looks suspiciously like what everybody has called a green slimer. I've never had one. They grow like crazy apparently, and I have a perfect spot for it in the new tank layout. So yeah. Oh, 7 people now. Cool. And this one, which I really was attracted to the deep, intense colors. And of course, none of that may happen by the time I get it, but we'll see. And then this one could very well be the same as the one before. The branching pattern was different, so that's why I chose this one. And these were all pretty good prices. And this one, hint of green, I have had this, I think it's a Palawanensis, Montipora Palawanensis. I've had this type before, and it does get a really, really pretty green cast to the whole thing, and the polyps are usually purple. And then this is supposed to be a pink maze brain with pink mouths. I do have a maze brain that has green mouths. I can kind of see where this maybe looks pink in the picture, but I'm not. I'm going to wait till I get it and see what it ends up being. I'd be quite pleased if it's anything but green, but even if it's green, that's fine because I love the form that they take when they grow. Mine has gone from being maybe 2 inches to probably 4 times that size in dimension. So it's doing really well. It puts out tentacles all the time. The edges are growing, and it's been through a lot, as have many of my corals, as you know if you follow my channel. Yeah, the maze brain that I have, I've owned for about 5 years. Okay, more comments. Hey, Waterhouse Jason, welcome. So I don't know if anybody wants to ask any questions, or like I said, I can send you the link if you like, and you can come on in. I think Skinner JW, I've included you in my email that I send out every week to all the past guests. So you should have the link if you want to pop in. Hey, Straight Reefer, nice to see you. Straight Reefer's a guy that would be nice to see what you've got going on in your tank. I understand it's pretty cool. So yeah, so what else can I tell you? I have not hooked up the hydros yet, but that's okay. I do know what I want to use it for. And one of the things, I can't remember if I said this last week, but we decided one of the things I'm going to use it for is going to be related to the ATO. I may just get, well, we'll see. I'm still tossing around the idea of getting the Hydros ATO to work with my system. The biggest problem I have is water volume and timing out of the pump. So we'll just have to wait and see if that's something I can control. Because, over a 100-gallon stock tank, the surface area is pretty big, and it's probably at least a gallon or more when the water drops about a half an inch. So it's a lot of water to put back. Most sensors I've seen aren't super accurate or I guess precise inside a half inch. So I might look at that. Oh, hey, Andrew Hudson. Hi from the UK. Glad you could join us. Oh, yeah, Benny says, yes, he got a cool tank. Come on, Straight Reefer. No pressure. I don't want to put pressure on anybody. So I haven't hooked up the hydros, but I did hook up my American Pinpoint Marine pH monitor that I used on the Red Sea tank. And right away from first hooking it up, the pH in the sump system that I'm running, the 265 gallons, was 8.2. And it has not gone below 8 that I've checked it, and it's gone up as high that I've seen around 8.28. Having said that, I did not calibrate it, and that is something I meant to get done before today so that I could, finish that story. And so I'm not going to take those numbers as gospel until I calibrate it, and then I'll actually see where it's sitting. Because it's been packed away for almost a year, and although I stored the probe in the proper solution upright so that it wouldn't dry out, you just don't know. And this is a type that I have an adapter for it. It's not on batteries, so I don't need to worry about that. And we'll see. I can believe that the pH is that high because of the amount of open water that I have with surface agitation. There's a lot of surface agitation going on. And it's also a part of the house where people don't spend time. In fact, it's right below where I'm sitting right now. I am sitting under the canopy, kind of at the right-hand side of the tank where it would be. Won't be able to sit here once the tank is here, if it ever comes, but that's another story. And yeah, so with all that open water, the fact that it's tucked away from where there are a lot of people breathing out CO2, and we have a fan moving the air around in there to control humidity and just keep the air moving. So it's pretty encouraging. And I'm crossing my fingers that that is the right number, but I'll find out once I calibrate that pH probe. I have all the solutions and everything to do it. I just haven't had a chance to get it done. Hey, Ani Rudwai, nice of you to join us. So yeah, here, I'll put up the banner to encourage anybody if you want to come in, because it's going to get pretty boring if it's just me talking the whole time. What else? I got 2 Algae Blennies. I think I told you guys that on last Saturday's stream, if you've, had a chance to catch up with that or if you were here. And, both of them seem to be doing fine. I can see that they've been working. I saw the tiny one once. I have not seen the big fat one that went into the 150. So, who knows? There's so many places it could hide. They're quite shy sometimes, and I can only go by the types of algae that are starting to disappear from the rocks to figure out that he's in there doing his work. And here's some exciting news. The Aurora goby, the one Aurora goby I had left, if you saw my video about moving my tank from like the Red Sea from my house, the guys bought it and took it away. I did find an Aurora goby that had jumped behind the tank. So that's what happened to the other one. But the one survivor went over to the 90, the holding tank, and it survived there quite fine under the rocks right at the front where I could check on him frequently. Then brought that fish over here. And the strange thing was I hadn't seen it in probably 2 weeks when we finally moved the rest of that tank, the contents. And I kind of thought, well, I guess he didn't make it, because I've had that fish for close to 3 years. That's when I got the tiger pistol shrimp and the goby pair. So I was really pleased to see when we took all the rocks out, there he was swimming around. And so I moved him into the 100-gallon because there's less chance of him being bullied by the big tang and the 2 mollies. And there's lots of places to hide. And I saw him quite regularly for a few days, and then once again, didn't see the fish. I moved a few rocks here and there, got my viewer, the flat bottom viewer, spent probably hours looking for the fish or any sign of a deceased fish. Couldn't see anything. And yesterday, when I was adding another power head to stir up some detritus that was building up behind the skimmer stand, I saw him. He was right beside one of the small coral shells, or I guess it's a fungia, the antique coral bits that I have. I have them curing in there. It was leaning up against the wall, and the little fish was living under there. So I'm super happy about that because it kind of gives me hope for the blonde naso that disappeared. I saw him twice and haven't seen him since. So it just goes to show you don't know. They disappear. And they're hiding. They're either getting to know their circumstances or who knows, right? I really don't hold out a lot of hope for the blonde naso because it's a fairly big fish. And I can't believe I wouldn't have seen it by now, given the amount of time I've spent looking. So yeah, that's kind of what's been happening here. Well, we got 15 people watching. So come on, guys. Anybody want to come in and chat, share your tank, tell us what it's like in your part of the world? Anirudwai, I'm not sure where you're from. Andrew Hudson's in the UK. Yep. And Benny, I know you're busy with little kids. That's cool. So yeah, I don't know if I have any other pictures to show you this week. Yeah, I just uploaded those coral pictures because I'm kind of excited. It's the first coral I've bought in quite a while. Hey, Bee Speak. Good morning. Must be morning where you are then. And I bought them from a online vendor I've bought from before, who's always had good prices. And actually, it's the place I got Buster the Symphilia and a couple other things. Lucy the bubble coral, one of the large cinerinas, the first one that I got, the purple one. It's not really purple, it's more green, but anyway. So I started looking on the website one night, and I should never buy things at night because I don't have as good judgment as I have during the day. So I started looking and I found those pieces, and I just thought, for the price they are, they're the equivalent of frag swap prices. Shipping was minimized because of the total value of everything. The chalice was kind of expensive, The maize brain was a little expensive, but the rest of the SPS were good prices. So I went ahead and did it. So there you go. Hey, Peter M. Peter, if I remember, you're in Croatia? That's cool. Want to come on and show your tank? I've got the banner going across the bottom. So yeah, we're up to 15 people. So I don't know what else to tell you. I did get a chance to watch a couple different live streams this week. I watched Melov's Reef's most recent live stream. I always like the Fish of Hex Q&As because I always learn something from them. I still feel bad. I haven't been keeping up with everybody's updates and things, and it's one of those things where I just have so little time. Usually I choose live streams because I can listen while I'm doing something else. And you see my sink behind me here. That's a power head cord that's in citric acid and water. It's a small Hydor Coralia. I use a lot of those things because they're really good for small areas if I want to stir up detritus and whatnot. And so I've been cleaning equipment a lot, and that's when it's great to have a live stream going because you can listen and periodically check the chat if you're wondering about something or if they're talking about something that you miss. So yeah, yes, Croatia. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So anybody got any questions? Want me to tell you about my tank? I don't know how much detail I've given you before. It's 60 inches wide by 66 inches front to back. That's not including the external overflow, which is another 6 inches or so. And it's coast to coast with 3 weirs and 2 returns. So there'll be 3 places of overflow and then 2 returns coming back. It has armored seams. So I'm pleased about that, having had once or twice a little bit of anxiety about being too vigorous with the algae scraper and getting a little bit too into the silicone. So the armored seams, I think, will help with that. It's Euro braced top and bottom. It's, I believe, a 4-inch Euro brace. And just about to ask about the tank arrival update. I have no date. I'm trying to decide whether maybe the tank builder is the kind of person who would prefer to surprise somebody, where you can say, ta-da, here it is, rather than keep people informed on an ongoing basis. I can kind of understand that a little bit because when you keep people informed on an ongoing basis, you kind of have more of a pressure to give specifics about timelines and things like that. So I can understand how somebody would want to keep that open just to allow for anything that might happen. Like, for example, dropping a tank on your leg and having to be off work for a couple of weeks. So no update on timing. I do know that, and I can't remember if I told you guys this last week, it will probably arrive. It's going to be shipped by DHL. It'll probably arrive in a 53-foot truck with a lift gate on the back, because that's the only size truck they have that incorporates a lift gate. And it's going to be truly interesting watching them maneuver it, because we want it placed in our garage on delivery. And then we're going to arrange to have it moved into the house by very specific aquarium movers. I have not set that up yet because, of course, I don't have a date. And I don't want to constantly have to reschedule. I don't want to say, yeah, June 15th, it should be here, and then find out it's not. Because January 23rd was when it was ordered. And today's May the 30th. So we're 18 weeks in. So yeah, it's been a very long time, and now I have to hope that it's a really good job, because I won't know that until I get it. And the stand has a couple of things that are different. If you picture your normal tubular steel stand, black with the uprights. This is that style of stand, but there will be no legs, no point loads. It's going to be a continuous perimeter around the outside, because of course with that kind of weight, any kind of a point load on a leg is for sure going to crack the tile. And I wanted that perimeter to distribute the weight all around, so there aren't any places where it's more than somewhere else. Now that doesn't take into account the possibility it may rest on a slightly uneven place on the floor, and we could have tiles crack. No, we got 22 people. Come on, people. Come on in. Stop me from talking. So yeah, we won't know till we actually have everything in here whether that stand is going to sit on the floor perfectly in perfect contact all around. Because if there's any kind of a high spot, going to get crushed. That tile's going to go. So we'll see. We learned that tile naturally has a crown. Didn't know that. And the 12 by 24 tiles are even harder, apparently, to get them flat and level. But I guess we'll know. Hey, Taryn, nice to see you. I'm baffled the tank construction takes that long, regardless of size. I know it could take longer because of COVID, but still. You know what? Me too. I can only think maybe because it's a non-standard size. I mean, it's not like the guy can order in panels that are 24 by 72, because it's 21 by 60 and 21 by 66. Now, mind you, all that is a 24 by 72 cut down with a little bit of waste that you might be able to use for something, for one of the armors or the internal Eurobrace at the bottom, because it's Eurobrace top and bottom. So yeah, it baffles me too, but this maker is known for taking a while. And I just didn't think that the original estimate of kind of 8 to 12 weeks in busy season was going to turn into 18 weeks. So we're double the low end and we're approaching double the high end. And as far as the stand goes, I'm pretty sure they've solved that, because I'm having steps, like platforms that flip up so that I can get up on top of them and work in the tank, because the stand is 40 inches tall. I wanted something where I wouldn't be leaning over constantly to look into the tank. And so this height is perfect for me. I'm about 5'5", so I can stand there and I can maybe tilt my head to one side or another, but for the most part, I can just look down and into the tank. And so with a stand that high, I needed some way of getting up high enough to get into the tank to do whatever I need to do. And I'm known for stepping back and not down when it comes to ladders. And I couldn't see using a ladder, step stool, and constantly having to move it. If I have a platform, I've got one whole side I can work with without the worry of stepping off the end or having to step down and move it and step up and step, up and down, up and down. And that's where accidents happen. So it could be that took a little longer because it's something novel to them. They haven't done it before. Don't know. Really don't know. Straight reefer. I think I said hi to you, Taryn. Glad you could make it. My 5-year-old daughter had a spa day that turned into a sleepover last night. Still got kids over my nerves. Still got kids over my nerves are at an all-time high. They've been plotting to see the Barbies swim with Nemo. Oh boy. Okay. I understand. Oh, Anirudh, I'm from India. Sadly, I'm not around with my tank some other time for sure. Cool. Would love to see that. I don't know if you guys ever ran across a channel on YouTube called Aquamania. Or was it Nano Aqua? I think it was Nano Aquamania. He's from India, I think Mumbai. And he has the coolest tanks. Just all kinds of different stuff. He keeps a turtle tank. And he's experimented off and on. He does some DIY. He does a really good job. He didn't do a lot of videos, but the ones he had were interesting. I'm not sure how recently he's done any videos. I think it's been quite a while. I know he was going to school and he's got a lot of other things going on, but he's also on Instagram, and and his Insta is best things. The best things in life are free with an underscore between each word. He's been traveling, and I've been following him for probably 4 or 5 years, something like that. And it's interesting to see because we've talked about, going back to the point about being from India, we've talked about the differences in products that are available and how difficult it is to get things and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. Cool. Definitely show my tank soon, hopefully next weekend. Oh, that would be wonderful. If you want to send me an email at some point through the week, I can add you to the list of people that get the link every week, and then you'll automatically get it. Next week will be a Saturday live stream. Hey, Marcus Aerolis 187. Terrence Little Ocean, did you get a date yet? No, I did not. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's got to the point where I actually did Google receiverships in that city. I don't know where you find out about receiverships, but what goes through your mind is, oh my God, something's happened to the business, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't think so. If that were the case, my fish store guy would know because they are customers of this guy too. So we'll just have to wait and see. One good thing, I mean, there probably are good things about this because it's giving me a chance to establish maturity in the sump system I've got going. And when I was looking back at dates, I've had the new aquascape rocks curing since mid-February. So, I mean, that's what, 3 months now? Yeah, three and a half months. And they're starting to get that slimy feeling, which is awesome. And I just need to stay on top of water changes and skimming the surface crap off that comes off of those types of rocks. And so I guess that's a good thing. And the other ones that I've had curing since last August, the large coral branches and skeletons, they're actually like a light brown color now. So they're ready. And the beauty of that is they're already contributing to the biofiltration in that system. And I need to test the nitrate and phosphate again because the water has been incredibly clear. The algae growth has slowed down to where the fish now can get it off. Because you know that really long algae, if you pluck it off, they'll clean the rocks of what's left. So that's why I try to get as much as I can off every day for 10 or 15 minutes. And then they go in and tidy up the rest of it. But they won't take a big bite out of the long stuff and pull it off. They just won't. And I have been noticing that some of it's getting lighter in color. So I don't know. It may be that the filtration is taking up the nutrients, and now I got to be careful because the corals need nutrients. So it's one of those things where I'm getting a chance to get this system stable before I add another 300 gallons and turn the switch and it all becomes one. And then I don't have to do any acclimation. If I want to move coral, I just bring it from downstairs to upstairs, put it in the tank up here because the rocks will be cured. The sand won't be cured, but hopefully if I let it run for a week or two and dump some pods in, maybe I can start that ball rolling. So that is an advantage to the delay, is that it gives what I have more time to mature. And more time to mature means greater chance of success once the tank is here, and much less of a chance in my mind that I'm going to have huge problems with fluctuations, algae, all that stuff. But I mean, of course, I won't know till it's here because I've never done this before. I have no clue, and I don't mind saying so. Hey, Calypso's Reefs. Hector, how you doing? Hector, I was on your live stream last night for about the last 3 or 4 minutes. I was so busy running around doing stuff yesterday, I didn't eat till about 9 o'clock. And while I was eating, I saw you were live. So I went on there just as your phone was dying and you were about to end it. So I didn't even say hi. Marcus Erlis, thank you. I appreciate that. I'd send you a gallon of pods if it wouldn't cost an arm and a leg to ship. Oh yeah, shipping is crazy, and it's crazy between the U.S. and Canada. It's not that crazy between Canada and Europe, because once again, here's me online late at night, and because I have the OT here now, I used to dose all for Reef in there because there are some SPS, and I love that stuff. It did exactly what it needed to. It was very easy to get the dosage set, one little Camor dripping pump. And of course I ran out. And of course nobody has it in stock, but they do in Germany. And they have the powder. And the powder apparently is coming, but it's not here yet. So I was able to find the powder on a site in Germany that actually ships worldwide. So I had to put in an order of 85 euros minimum. They had a bunch of other stuff I've never seen anywhere. So I managed to get it up to that. And the shipping was 46 euros. So it would have been double that from the States to Canada for that type of order. It's absolutely crazy. So we'll see when it arrives. I'm unsure about the fish food because apparently they won't ship fish food from the US to Canada for whatever reason. But we'll see. We'll see if it gets through customs or if I have a problem with it. The fish food wasn't the majority of the order. But I did find, the Chalice, the liquid Chalice food that's like red in a bottle. I use that. And I found the equivalent from the same manufacturer of mysis. So baby mysis in a suspension. And also a different type of algae sheets that's already got garlic in it. I think Seavid, like Julian Sprung's does have garlic in it. It smells like it anyway. And some marine flakes, mysis flakes. So hopefully I can get the fish food. But if I'm kind of, of the mind that if I don't get it, I don't get it. But I'll at least get the All for Reef powder, which is 1,600 grams for 31 euros. So also cheaper than here. So yeah. Okay. What do we got here? Who else is here? Nice. Thank you for being there. Hello, Terrence. That's Hector. I use All for Reef. It's amazing. Lou Ekus at Chicago Wrap recommended it and gave me a small sample, and I absolutely love the ease of it. And people wonder how the calcium and alkalinity don't precipitate out, and it's because they're salt based elements. And I was talking about this last week, and I know why. I just don't know the how of it. So I need to look that up so I can give you guys some of the information that I found when I first looked into it, because I have limited space in my brain. And once I look into something and decide, okay, it's okay, and here's why, and then I forget about all the details until I go and look it up again. So I'll look into it and make some notes and let you guys know what the different, like why they can put the two parts together in one liquid without precipitating out. Filipino, Benny's back. Hey, calcium diformate. Is that what it is, Marcus Aerolis? All for Reef? Yeah. It's a different basis of making the calcium and carbonate bioavailable. It's a different basis. You still need magnesium. Okay. So Hector, are you? Did you want to come in? I know I sent you the email. Comments. Hello, everyone. And Benny, now that you're back, you could show us your tank. I showed your photograph of your May update last week because I had forgotten to put it up the week before. And it looked very nice. Matt Greer, All for Reef is awesome. Just have to stay on top of water changes for my mag will rise. Yeah. Hey, Matt Greer, welcome. Yeah, Taryn, come and show us your lovely clowns. Oh, okay. Hector's coming real quick before he goes to the LFS. Yeah, anyone who just joined, we're up to 27 now. I did get some fish, but I can't pick them up till next weekend at the earliest because of all the stuff that's going on around outside. I mean, one day I'm going to look out my window and everything's going to be done. And that day is going to be this week. Pretty exciting because we've lived in dirt and mud since November. We spent some time this morning planning where to put trees outside. Oh, I've rehomed most of my corals to get a replacement at Reefapalooza, Filipino reefer. So that's what you do. You empty your tank so you can fill it. I look at the contents I have downstairs right now, and it's essentially spread out over 2 stock tanks. And I've barely got enough room for everything. I've got the fox coral with the mycedium right behind it. And I'm pretty sure the mycedium has been putting out little feelers at night because one edge of the fox coral is looking a little bit unhappy. And I've got a hammer right down there that looks like it's kind of annoying the edge of my turbinaria, the big one that I have that's purple with bright green polyps on it. And that thing is growing like crazy. The stuff is doing well. I have the scolimia that I bought at the KW Coral Show in November of 2019, just before everything went crazy. And when I bought it, it was maybe 2 inches across, and now it's like 4 inches across. It's beautiful. My button scolie is finally coming back into its own after being in a subpar location. Not enough light, not enough flow. Now it's looking like they're all doing so well. And when I think of moving all that stuff up to the new tank, you look at it and you think, oh yeah, I'm going to have lots of space, but I'm not sure because my goal of this tank is to grow things out, to get stuff as big as I can possibly get it. And that means spreading it out, right? Oh, hey, Becky, thanks for letting me know. SPS Reefer will be on in 20 minutes. Let me get Hector in here since he's only got a few. Hey, Hector.
Hello, can you hear me?
Tank's looking nice.
You can hear me, right? No, maybe, yes.
Oh, Benny
No,
made some
no audio.
torches grew and selling frag. Hey, listen, that's a valid way to support the hobby, right?
You can hear me or no?
So Hector, have you recovered from the crash? Oh, maybe he doesn't hear me.
No, no.
Oh, just 1 second. Cool. I'm glad you can hear me.
All right, can you hear me now?
It's weird doing this in the daytime because I have to sit in a different spot in the room. Otherwise, the light is just too much from the front window.
You can hear me now?
Marcus Aerolis, I have to do some too. I think you mean water changes, reset cultures, wash buckets, regenerate DI resin, so much more. Oh yeah. Yes, I still have not done a water change on the system downstairs, and it's been up and running. Ooh. When did I moved the reef in March, late March, early April.
Why?
So it's never had a water change yet. Oh, and I got an urchin. I don't know if I told you guys, I got a little tiny sea urchin, about smaller than a golf ball. Oh, we lost him. Oh, Hector, okay. They could hear you, but I couldn't. Okay, I can't hear Hector. Hey, producer Reef. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, Hector, I didn't hear you. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I know why. Because my streaming device had turned off. That was why. Okay. Hey, Hector.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. I'm so sorry. I've got this streaming device that goes into my ears,
Yeah.
and if just me talks for a long time, it shuts off because there's nothing coming into it.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
it was shut off. I'm sorry. I'm not used to talking that long all by myself.
Everything's good. Everything's good. Yes, I did recover from the crash.
Yep.
Still here. I switched the cold water out of the ATO to dosing it now.
Yep.
And let me tell you, that's been a headache.
Yeah.
To get it dialing where it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. I don't know if you follow Fish of Hex, but he was talking about how he puts a gallon of calc into his tank, his 300 every day.
Yeah. Wow.
And the problem he's running into now is it accounts for so much of the evaporation that the salinity is starting to creep up because it's not allowing enough replacement water or something. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, like right now I'm doing 55 mils an hour.
Holy smokes, that is a
Yes,
lot.
that is a
Whoa,
lot. Yep.
that's
55.
like a liter a day.
Yep.
Just over a liter a day. Holy smokes.
So I was heading out to get a bigger container because the one I got is not gonna cut it.
Yeah, and it's a pain in the neck to prepare the calc solution. I always ran into a situation where it was running low, and then you have to mix it and let it sit for a day.
Yep. Yep.
And I was up against it, so I got another bottle, and I started always making two, so I at least had one I could swap out for next time.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the situation right now, and in the process of community going up and down. Some corals are suffering the consequences. So
Yeah.
I just, before you invite me in, I was just cutting a coral that started RTN.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that little piece that I cut, I could save it. If not, there it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I gotta get it there.
It's so weird. The SPS I have, the sticks that are on the rocks, and algae is starting to get all over them.
Yep.
You should see the polyp extension on those things. It's crazy. But my Montipora, the plating ones, they're sitting on frag racks nearby, and there's nothing. They're just the flat color. I haven't seen polyps ever since I put them in there.
Wow.
So I don't know. Maybe it's too much light. I have no idea. Not enough flow. There's no explanation for it.
Yeah. It's this thing with the SPS. Oh, let me tell you, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
It is a challenge just to get things where they need to be and keep them there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the challenge right there. Keep them there.
Yep. It's just like a garden. You think, oh, once it's planted, all I got to do is water it and it'll all be fine. But no, you got pests, you got wind, you got, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Broke Reef Man 45, welcome. And Producer Reef, thank you. The light rack. Yeah, we're going to see how she goes.
It's really nice. Nice ideas, nice DIY.
Well, thanks.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I wanted it to look clean. And, every time I came in that room, my eye went straight to all those wires up in the canopy.
Yep.
And, I just had to cover them up. And that little strip of baby crib stuff, perfect. So we'll see. I mean, it could build up heat. We really haven't had the lights on yet for any length of time. I mean, the nice thing is there's a power bar up there, and you can reach right through that stuff, like, and push the switch on the power bar. To turn everything on. So I don't have to lift it up or work around it.
It's nice and open. So
yeah.
the heat is not going to be that much of a problem.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Marcus Aerolis says calcium reactor time.
And it's sitting in the basement. I just got to get the rest of it. But
yeah. Benny says
tank. I don't think I need it for this tank.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right? You
Yeah.
just have to figure out what the balance is between the two part and, you know.
That's probably what I'm gonna do next. If right now I'm at 8.3, so it's been like that since yesterday. So
Yeah.
I want to see because I've been doing a lot of research on do corals consume alkalinity and calcium throughout the night.
Yeah. I
Uh,
read somewhere that they lay their skeletons at night.
yeah, that's
And
what I was
they're
just reading before I went on the live.
yeah, and they their polyps are out feeding at night usually. Well, that's when you get the marine snow and the
Yep,
hatches and stuff like that in the ocean at night. The
yep,
water gets murky.
murky. Yeah.
Benny says he's got to give you back some of the corals that you gave him.
Benny.
Yeah. Oh, and producer Reef says you had a crash. Hector, what happened? Glad you're back on track now.
Yeah. Well, I was adding more lights to the system. The two new Orfex on it, and outlet on the wall tripped, so I had to rearrange all the wires and all that just so the breaker don't trip or nothing. And in the process, my reactor shut down, and I didn't realize it wasn't working.
That was GFO, right?
Yeah, the raw false. Yeah.
Raw fuzz, sorry. Yeah.
So it was sitting there, and I removed a little polyester pad that I had in there. So when the pump came on, all that phosphate got released in the water, plus the water that was sitting there for a day or so.
Yeah.
So coral suffer the consequences. But
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, it was bad. It was bad, really bad.
And Taryn is asking, and I was wondering too, how's the Mandarin doing today?
He's still kicking. He's still kicking. He ate whatever pods he's finding in the refugium right now.
Yep.
So, but I don't give him long. I don't give him long because now to keep that refugium full of copepods and all that, because he refused to eat brine shrimps and pellets. Pellets he do put them in his mouth, but then he spit them back out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's not taking nothing in, just whatever he be picking in the inside the tank.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, sometimes I wonder about expiry dates on stuff on food. And like when we buy frozen food, we can only hope it's been properly stored and handled in
Mm-hmm.
the store. You know what I mean? Hasn't thawed
Mm-hmm.
and refrozen. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it would be like if you went to a restaurant and they gave you a burger that tasted awful. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you might not eat it. And
Yeah.
they might not know that it tastes, you know, and so maybe fish go through that a little bit too
I think.
if they find something unpalatable. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think with the branching was because I saw some of the firefish pooping that white stringy, so that's internal parasites.
Yep. Yep.
So I added, I think it was Metroplex for internal parasites. I think it's
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
and the mandarin did get a taste of that. So
Yeah.
I think after that it was a done deal. He didn't want to deal with that no more.
Yep. Benny says you're the man. You bring back the dead to alive and breathing. Yeah. So
This guy.
true. Oh, and he wants to know what you're getting at the LFS because he's going to his LFS to get some fish.
No. I mean, not getting no fish, no fish. I'm going to get oyster fees, maybe some copepods,
Yep.
and the container for the cold water.
Yep.
I did
Nice.
markings on mine. I don't know if you could see them, but
Yep.
that was every 15 mils. I made a marking,
Yeah.
so I was up almost 24 hours.
Oh boy. Wow.
Yep. But that's only today
And
already.
how big is that container? It looks like it's about maybe a gallon.
About, yep, about. So I'm gonna need a bigger one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
They
one of
do
those
have some like
things.
that one, a little bit kind of the same size, but just the whole thing here. So let's see.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
sort
get that
of.
one
Oh, that would be good.
because it's gonna be like refilling the ATO and that every day. No,
Yeah.
that's on my
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, that's one of those things about this hobby. You know, there are certain thresholds where you know that you're not going to go there. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's something you got to do like that every single day, even if you intend to do it, stuff happens, and
Yes,
you
yes.
know, you're late from work, or you got to go away
Hmm.
suddenly, like you just don't know, or you want to go out for the evening, and
Yeah.
yeah, yep,
Well, for the most
nice,
part, everything is good. Everything is good. That one coral just now that I found, RTNing,
yeah,
but and this hammer here, it's a old hammer, but it's suffering a little there.
yeah,
I'm probably gonna cut that piece and dip it, or maybe
yep.
dip it and leave it like that and see if it heal up.
You know the stuff from Brightwell. There's biofuel, and there's Bacter Clean or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I because they're because of the algae, and
Yep.
because the rocks were getting overtaken, and I know that like algae can't take hold if there's the proper slime coat, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
I forget why. I dosed that clean stuff properly. I mean, I always underdose, so not a
Yep.
full dose, once a week. I did it 2 weeks in a row. And you know, the Euphilia that I have were not happy.
Hmm.
The hammer that was doing great closed right up. I
Wow.
have one little, actually, I have two little torch frags
Mm-hmm.
of the green torch that had grown so well in the Red Sea tank. And I still have two frags, and each has two heads, and one might be getting a third. They
Oh,
were
nice.
out doing well, closed right up.
Wow.
So, and that was like for 48 hours after I dosed that stuff.
Hmm.
So I
Potent.
just thought, man, oh man, I'm not doing it anymore, because maybe I was using it for the wrong reasons and I didn't fully understand what it's meant to do. And maybe I don't need it, or maybe there's something in it that combines with something else in my system. You know, who knows? But
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, if you know what your corals look like, and you can, and I've learned not to do multiple things at once, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
only
Mm-hmm.
thing that I did. And man,
Yeah. Yeah, and we know once we see this corals reacting to whatever we do, we
yeah,
know that like
yeah,
a matter of time they can either go completely or
yeah,
poof, and it's sad, man. It's sad because you see something doing good. And this is the only bad part about this hobby that I don't like, because you can have something
yeah,
living for a lot of years.
yeah,
One little misstep that you do, it's gone.
mm-hmm, yeah, very true. Yeah, my Symphilia, the green with the red skirt,
Mm-hmm.
the green wrasse kept flipping it over. And anyway, I've been target feeding it with phytochrome and restore and a whole bunch of other things. And it's actually starting to come back. For
Wow.
a while it was so pale. Well, the problem with those types of corals like Lobos, Trachophilia, Symphilia, once they start going downhill, it's really hard to get them back. But
Hmm.
I'm
I
not,
saw.
I'm
I saw.
certainly,
Now that you're talking about that, I saw a video yesterday. I forgot. This guy, Reef Dork,
yeah,
and he did a video on a scully that he had. He started feeding her fuel, not
yep,
fuel, the rescue one, the AB plus or
yep,
ABCD, whatever that joint is called, and it came back. It came back
yep,
around, and it's doing really nice.
yep. Even that stuff you have to be careful, because
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to put it directly on coral tissue.
Yep.
So if you're going to do that, you have to mix it, like you have to dilute it. And
Yep.
then I usually shut off all the flow, and I just puff it above the coral and let it settle. And I leave the stuff off for a good half hour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I just turn the power heads back on, and then I turn the system back on. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and doing that every night takes an hour.
Oh yeah. Easy.
So, you know, yeah,
Easy. Yeah, that's how long kind of what I do when I feed the tank. Keep turning off the pump and the pump turning it off until
yep,
about 40 minutes or so. I just let the power heads come on and do whatever they got to do.
yeah. Hey, Scott Morrison. Hi from Scotland. This is a better time to do a live show. Yeah, it is. That's why it's the global. Peter M. Love Reef Dork. He has very useful videos.
Yeah.
I agree to an extent, but he and I parted ways when he actively advocated against quarantine. And he says he's an educator, but he says you shouldn't quarantine your fish, and he
No,
gave
you
a bunch
gotta
of reasons.
quarantine. You
And
have to quarantine.
I disagreed so bad. And I can't watch him anymore
Yeah.
because I just think he's so wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he does works for him, and that's what matters
Exactly.
for him, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I,
No, you
in
have to
fact, I used to
quarantine.
correspond with him about different stories about stuff that was going on in the Gulf of Aden and things like that
Mm-hmm.
with the Red Sea stuff and salinity plants, and I don't know, but I just can't bring myself to watch it anymore. I can't
Yeah.
take it seriously.
I'm trying to make a promise to myself of not getting no more new fish at all. And I only got 1%. Hold on.
Oh, you're
One
kidding.
percent. So I turned the camera
Bye.
around so we could charge for a little bit. But you gotta quarantine. You gotta quarantine. I will never get no new fish unless I have a quarantine tank that I could quarantine that fish for. If I can leave them in
Mhm.
there for like a year, then because it's sad. It's sad. You could put a fish
Yeah,
in your tank, wipe out your whole tank.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm getting the fish this week, and I'm getting 3. And the nice thing is with the OT, the observation tank that used to be Mollywood,
Mm-hmm.
I can take coral that has algae on it, and that'll give you a hint about what I'm getting.
Yep.
One of them is my dream fish, and another one is a fish everybody wants that's a jerk, and we'll find out if it's a jerk. But they're tiny, they're very tiny, 2 inches. So I'm
Okay.
putting them in the OT, but I'm going to move individual rocks from the other system that have algae on them into there and just let them eat them, like
Yeah.
eat the algae off of it. Because they eat, well, the one is known to eat filamentous algae, which is the hair algae, right?
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that was my thought. I can keep them in there for as long as I need to.
Mm-hmm.
If they get sick and they need treatment, I got tanks. I can set up a hospital tank
Yep.
in no time flat
Yep.
and do whatever treatment I need to do, remove the fish, whatever. So yeah,
Hey, you
we'll
gotta
see.
quarantine fish, man. You have to. You have to. Because
Yeah,
right now, I don't know if maybe my mandarin has internal parasites,
yeah.
and
Is
they.
it Pro that takes care of the internals?
Um.
I think I use no, you know what? You're right. It's Metroplex. Pro does flukes like externals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's what I used on my Royal Grandma.
Yeah, and this clown here, that one is also getting like my old female.
Yeah.
This she's getting skinny. She eats fine. I'm
Oh,
giving treatment here and there. I'm not active after giving them the treatment, but she looked better now than how she was doing about a week ago.
yeah.
So hopefully that's it. Because sometimes you catch me here sitting next to the tank to see whenever I feed the fish, see if they poop that long string so I could catch it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
'cause I saw a video where they catch the poop and they put on the microscope and they see the worm inside.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, Marcus Aurelius says Prazi does work for worms as well. And Peter M., you guessed it. You get a prize. I treated myself to a teeny tiny purple tang.
nice, nice.
So we'll see if I regret it.
Nah, they nice, and the tank that you're gonna have it, man, is big enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the other one is a bucket list fish. And I have been waiting for almost a year to get this fish.
Wow.
The LFS got some in last year, a little maybe July.
Yeah.
And I had him set one aside for me, but it didn't survive because it was really small.
Oh,
So this time he got several. They're in really good condition,
nice.
and so I'm getting one of those bucket list. But you'll have to wait and see. And they're just babies.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I heard on your stream last night where you were trying to avoid showing the DNT tank.
No, did I say that?
Oh,
No.
okay. because you said something about, oh, I don't want to show you the DNT tank. And then I thought, when I was looking at it earlier, I thought, well, that looks like the DNT tank.
Yeah. No, I was talking about like was it yesterday that I was saying that I don't want to get rid of the DNT.
Okay, you know what? I love that. Is that a hammer that's up on that tree thing?
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the body of it.
I love that thing. It looks like a freaking tree right in the middle of your reef. It's awesome.
Yeah. I did like a little surrounding it with the other ones. That's the new one that I got from Kung Fu Corals.
Yeah.
It's doing
Beautiful.
really good. It's doing really good.
Nice. Yeah, it's looking really good. And the GSP, the toxic DNT GSP back there.
Yeah. I love it. I would never get rid of that coral. I like more like the old school corals, you could say.
Yeah.
More into those type of corals.
Yeah.
It's what I fell in love at the beginning with the hobby, seeing tanks, full of this stuff. So
yeah,
King Slimer, the Oregon tour.
Yep.
The Gorgonians. I love type of corals.
Yeah. Chili Will's Reef. Hey, and Hector, your Calypso's Reefs on YouTube, right?
Yes.
He's asking what the name is of your page. Here, I'll do a little banner up here. And we'll put it up.
Thank you.
And you have Reefs 'S, right? Okay. There we go.
Yep.
There you go, Chili Wills. That's the name of Hector's YouTube. He has regular live streams.
Yeah, almost on a daily basis.
Yeah. I've thought about it. I've thought about setting the camera up when I'm doing something, whatever. And I just don't. I don't know.
I do it because in a way I could document whatever I'm doing. And,
Yep.
And I don't know, so I don't be by myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because you never know. Look what happened with the phosphate situation. It happened right on the stream. No, on the stream it happened, and then the next day, it was awful.
Yeah.
And I've been saying to myself, okay, I'm gonna add, because I've been battling now, not too much phosphates, but they there. They in the high side, 0.11.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bring them down to around 4 or 5, and I'm being hesitating to put the RoboFoss back in.
What's your nitrate at?
I test I think it was 10 ppm.
Yeah, the whole thinking has changed on the nitrate thing, or I mean phosphate thing. And I'm starting to think, if you look at your tank and it's doing good and you don't have a lot of nuisance algae, whatever the phosphate is probably right for the balance that you've got,
Whenever I see it going to the high side, then I start seeing like cyano getting in the sand. I mean, my sand is new, but when it's low, it's a light cyano. When it's higher, it start getting darker.
Yeah.
And you start seeing algae growing on the glass more.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get cyano with high phosphate.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had phosphate up to 0.22, and I've not had cyano. So I just figure maybe because the nitrate is also at a higher level right now, like my nitrate is hovering around 15 in the system, and the phosphate has been 0.09 or 0.1. So it's hard to resist what we've become experienced in doing, which is, oh my God, it needs to come down, right? It's hard not to do that.
You just got to keep it there.
I know, like once you finally figure it out and have the tools to do it, not to use those tools.
Yeah, because the chasing number situation, OMG.
Yeah. Oh, Chili Will's just subscribed. And actually, I wanted to say, Hector, you're really close to 1,000 subscribers now, aren't you? like
Almost there.
980 something.
Yeah, almost there.
Yep. So anybody who's watching or in the chat who anyone anywhere looking at the replay, um, head on over to Hector and Calypso's Reefs and subscribe and watch a video because YouTube doesn't count it unless you watch a video. And we'll see if we can bump them up over 1,000.
Thank
That'd
you.
be cool. That'd be cool. Well,
It's been since I haven't been that active making videos, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why. But it's just thank you. I appreciate
Yeah. Hey, listen, 1,000 is a milestone.
Yes.
And then if you're doing live streams and you're getting some watch time out of that, you might be able to, you know, get into the partner program and at least get some money out of it. It's not much, but
yeah.
every little bit helps, right?
Always. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when I got to what was it like right now is it's a roller coaster, you know. Like you see at one point that like people start subscribing, you get to like 500 and it spread more around with people.
Yep.
And then it just stopped.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
here and then you get to another you know, a little more and then start coming again and then just stop.
Yeah, it is weird. I can't figure it out. I kind of stopped paying much attention.
Yeah, that's why I don't pay attention to it.
Because there's no sense to the pattern that it takes. So I like it when I get views on the videos and lots of comments.
Yes.
Because I really like the interaction with people.
Yeah, it's all depend. I say how active you are with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But life gets in the way, and to make videos all the time, it's not easy. Yeah. I give it to those people that are committed there either every day or every other day, every Friday, every Sunday. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of go on the basis of if I have something to make a video about, then I make a video. And I did try for quite a while to do weekly updates.
Yeah.
But then I just felt like they were kind of getting boring.
Boring, yes. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying other people who do that are boring, but I felt like mine didn't justify an update every week at the time. So I don't know. Hey, T40, what's up, everybody? Want to let you all know your tanks are looking great.
T40.
Cool, that's for you. And ReefGrrl is looking at your canopy. Excellent job. Thank you. And we got SPS Reefer here. Nice. I know, it's cool. You know, the biggest problem was the offset rafters in this room.
Yep.
Because originally he was just going to screw the canopy, the flat board onto one row of supports.
Yep.
But he couldn't put the supports in the middle of the room because of where the rafters were.
Yeah.
So he had to figure out a way to distribute all the weight.
Yep.
And be able to support everything because it's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Because those lights, those Atlantic lights, are like 30 pounds each. They're crazy heavy.
Wow. How many inches are those?
How many inches?
Yeah.
The big? Lights?
Yeah.
They're about 9 by 22, something like that. Wow. 9 inches by 22, but they're this thick.
Yeah.
You know, they're like super heavy duty.
Wow.
So we got SPS Reefer and cue balls. Let's bring them in so they can tell you how great your tanks are looking, Hector. There's SPS Reefer and there's cue balls. Hi, guys.
Hey, Cindy.
How are you doing?
Hello, guys.
Oh, not too bad.
And there's Ryan, SPS Reefer from the UK with that lovely bow front. Cool.
Nice.
So cue balls, I wanted to ask you last time we saw your tank. Your rocks, is that any of that Live Sea or Carib Sea Live or anything like that? Or is that regular base rock that you're using?
It was all just Amazon special rock. I don't know what it's called. It was just dry rock that I bought from Amazon, and then some of it I had from my old 72-gallon tank, and I kind of used that to seed my my cycle when I first got all this started.
Right. Because I love the color of it.
Yeah, I'm growing coralline on the rock like crazy.
Yep.
But I'm also fighting dinos right now, so some of it kind of is browning out in places, but it's slowly coming back. I've been fighting this for about 6 weeks now.
Yeah. So there's somebody here that said hello all. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Seokonax XX Iokona XX. Hello all. Glad you could make it. That's cool. It's a party. Love seeing all the tanks. Me too. And Benny wishes his tank was as full as yours. I don't know if he means Hector or you cue balls or Ryan maybe. Cool. Your fish are looking good there, cue balls.
Yeah, I'm slowly adding more and more.
Yeah. ReefGrrl, have you heard anything about Aaron's aquarium? I know of Aaron's aquarium, and oh, we lost Hector. I think Hector's on his way to the LFS and his phone was dying. Aaron's aquarium, I guess about a month ago, someone said they hadn't seen him in a while. So I only know that rumor. I haven't checked his YouTube to see how recently he's done anything. He had at one time been doing live streams regularly, and I'm trying to think if his were on Fridays, maybe Friday afternoon. I don't remember. But nothing. I've heard nothing about anything that's going on with him right now.
Yeah, I wonder if he got hit with, because I know that his last stream he was starting up his own shop, and I'm wondering if something happened with that with the pandemic and all, if he's been going through a rough spot. But I've kind of wondered the same thing. I haven't seen him online for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I you know, things happen to people and they just disappear and you just never know. And especially now, you hope they're okay, you know, with the virus and everything.
Right.
Is that a lavender tang you have?
Oh yeah, that's that's my first tang.
That is beautiful.
He's kind of the chief of the tank.
Yeah.
He's not very fond of the blue hippo. They'll chase each other around the tank every now and then, but I mean it's nothing aggressive. He just lets them know that he's in charge.
Yep.
And then the yellow tang just kind of watches and I think quietly laughs.
Well, he's going to be bigger than all of them ultimately.
Yeah, the blue hippo is definitely, he started off, he was probably the size of one of my chromis when I got him. And for quite a while, he was in this tank, and all three tanks got along just fine. And then I had to take the yellow tang out because he had white spots. And I caught it pretty early, and I put him in hyposalinity, and he recovered nicely. But in the meantime, when he was out of the tank, the lavender and the blue hippo just really started going after each other. And I did a video. The blue hippo ended up with a big gash on his side. And yeah, I did a video on that on my YouTube channel. And once I put the yellow tang back in, then the other two just kind of, well, there they go, chasing each other. But yeah, once the yellow tang got back in the tank, then things seemed to calm down again.
Yeah, it's fish behavior. It is such an odd thing. Oh, Benny is saying his wife tested positive during labor and before the delivery was tested negative twice. and he thinks he was positive before it all exploded because he never had a 102 fever in his life. Yeah, it's I think I know of probably at least half a dozen people who probably had it early, and in the early stages there were no tests that were given. If you had the symptoms, you were told to monitor at home, and then if it got really bad, to go to the hospital, and that's when you would get a test. And that was the first couple months, and I think a lot of people had it and were never confirmed positive, and they'll never know until they do the antibody tests, and even then it's not sure. So anyway, I don't know, you just don't know. Hey Ryan, SPS Reefer, we can't hear you, so I'm not sure if you're talking, but your mic could be muted or covered up, or maybe it's your internet. It looks a little jumpy. So maybe go out and come back in again. If you go out, yeah, and I'll watch for you to come back in. Sometimes stuff happens, it's weird. Yep. I love seeing all the fish. Like
I'd love to get more.
Yeah. And how many gallons are you again?
180.
180. So it's a 6-foot tank?
Right. 6 by 2 by 2.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the space. I've only got 5 by 5.5, but I have over 7 diagonally. Because, they kind of use that 6 feet as a bit of a cutoff point where certain fish need room to swim, and they say they shouldn't be in any less than a 6-foot tank. And so I just figured, well, mine's 5 by 5, which makes the hypotenuse 7 point something.
Yeah, I think you'll have plenty of space.
Yeah,
I'm trying to limit the amount of big fish that I'm putting in here. I think I'm going to leave it at just these 3 tangs and my trigger. And I've been adding smaller fish. I've got these yellow damsels that I just added in.
Yep.
I got a trio of those guys. And I was surprised. They took to the tank rather well. Nobody really bothers them, and they're not really bothering anybody, but they're so small.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to cause too much havoc.
What species are they?
They're yellow staghorn damsels.
Oh, cool.
And then I have the black and white reticulated damsels.
Yep.
And of course the chromis.
Yeah.
And I've got 4 different clownfish in here.
You have 4, and they all get along? You got a Tomini tang too. I just saw it go by.
He's hiding right now. There he is. My tomato clown, he is the anemone dweller.
Yeah.
And then I've got, this is 2-3, because he has 2 dots on one side and 3 dots on the other. And then his buddy is 4-5. For the same reasons. He's got 4 dots on one side and 5 dots on the other side.
That's hilarious.
And then over in my little hospital tank, I have a Clarkie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just chilling over there because he started getting a little too aggressive for my taste. So he's hanging out over there until I decide what to do with him.
Yeah. You know what? I just mistook your lavender for a Tomini because he had his fins down.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Oh, here's Ryan back. Hey, Ryan, can we hear you now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hey,
awesome.
There we are.
Yeah, sometimes it takes going out and coming back.
Yeah.
So your Clarkie, did you have trouble there, cue balls, catching the Clarkie to get him out?
No, I've been lucky. Every time I need to get a fish out of any of the tank, I wait until nighttime when everybody's sleeping.
Yeah.
And I go in with a flashlight and a net, and it's a minute or 2 to get them out of the tank because they have no idea what's going on, and I just scoop them up and get them to where they're going.
Yep.
That's my trick. It's worked so far, so I'm going to keep doing it.
I've always had pretty good luck with fish, but I think part of it is knowing when to give up and try something different. So, yeah. Oh, there we go. Hey, Ryan, can you turn your phone horizontally? There we go. Yeah, now we can see more. Nice. So have you, oh, you know what? Is that a Ponape? That's really grown since I think the first time we ever saw this tank.
Yeah, oh yeah. Last month or so, just grown like crazy.
Wow. Nice.
That's the crazy T Monty, I think they call it.
Yeah, it's a
Can't really get its
Palawanensis.
colours. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I'm pretty proud of myself that I can actually say that whole word. Is it after 2 o'clock? Yeah, it's after 2 o'clock. My brain is working.
There's a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Glows, as you can see.
Yeah.
Want it to encrust
Yeah.
all on the bottom of the tank. That's why I put him on the bottom.
Yeah.
GSP.
Yep.
Dragon Soul just at the back there.
Oh, a nice torch. Have
Not
you
really
always
long
had
torch,
that?
but- No.
Have you always
It's,
had that, or did you just get that?
Yeah, about a couple of months ago. I got it.
Oh, okay.
I see it in the shop and I thought it looks nice. I thought, yeah, bit of movement on the bottom rather than just have sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to pick
Oh,
the colours of these millies, but it's so really, really sunny here today, so it's not getting the true colours. That's a bubblegum digit just at the side, which is grown.
wow.
There's my masterpiece.
That is beautiful.
King. You can see the basing out. It's just really, really like to take off now.
Yep.
That one's like rainbow, but again, I'll try and do a top-down view in a minute and see if we can see. I'll turn the flow off, see if we can see the colours, and then there's the Monty just at the back there.
I saw that in your top down before when you were going through, and it's so vibrant.
It's really bright, isn't it? Yeah. So let me just turn the flow off and just see if I can get a view.
So, hey, cue balls, I saw your yellow. Was that a yellow Watchman goby peeking out from under that rock?
Yeah, him and his
Shrimp. Oh, there he is.
yeah, there's a tiger pistol in there with them, and they've got a little tunnel system going underneath the main, right in the center, which I love.
Yep, that's cool. We used to call it the subterranean lair under the junkyard because the whole left side of the tank was the 2 Aurora gobies with the pistol shrimp, and I would put rubble in there. And no word of a lie, I have a picture of it somewhere. That pistol shrimp built an arch going in under a rock. It was an actual arch out of little pieces of stone and shell and whatever. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It just, I'm so looking forward. I might try a couple of different combinations in different corners of the tank and see if I can, get different little territories going on. I have all of my rocks resting on little legs, so they'll be lifted up off the bottom by roughly an inch. So we'll see once I fill the sand in. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, these guys, they're just always building, and he's got a entrance with old shells and anything he can find.
Yep. Oh yeah, I always put little bits and pieces right in the middle of that open area, and they're always moved around all over the place. It was just fascinating.
Well, he gets a little bold sometimes, and he'll actually take hermit crabs, and of course, then they crawl out, but it ruins the whole entrance. But yeah, he's there. I could sit and just watch them build for hours. I mean, they're always going at it.
Yep.
And it's probably 2 years I've had this pair.
Yep. Cool. Oh, look at Ryan's top down. Wow. Those pinks, like that mulberry or whatever that color is, That is pretty amazing. And this is, you've got the Hydra 26.
32.
Yeah.
Hydra
32. 32.
Yeah.
I get the numbers wrong. Yeah. It looks like it's perfect for this tank.
Brilliant light. Yeah, I won't
Yep.
use anything else now. Now I know what it
Yep.
can do, especially with
Yeah.
FPS anyway.
Yep.
As you can see, they're all basing out now for fun.
Oh yeah. Now, did I miss it? Do you have fish in here?
I don't anymore. No, I lost them due to a white spot outbreak. So I lost
Oh.
my tang and my wrasse. I had to evict my wrasse because he started attacking some of my corals. So they were a twin
dear.
spot. So
Yeah.
they're known for being a bit boisterous. So I
Yeah.
had to go, unfortunately.
So are you going to stay fallow for a period of time
No, I
before
think
you
I'm gonna
go
put
back?
I'm gonna put some tang in. I think I don't know what tang I'm going to put in. Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably a small bristle too, because the tank's
Yeah.
not massive anyway.
Yeah.
And, but for now, I'm happy with no fishing it.
Yeah. Hey, Diacanthus, I'll have to finish the replay tomorrow. Thanks for streaming, Cindy. Thanks for coming by, Diacanthus. It's always nice to see you. Cool. So, Ryan, what's your next planned acquisition? It looks like you have a nice, lovely prime spot of real estate right in the middle there.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at some on on one of the shops over here, Signature Frags, I think they're called.
Yeah.
And they have PC rainbows on there, strawberry shortcakes on there. There's loads of names that I've never heard of, and some of them look really nice. So I think a PC rainbow is going to be the next one in that prime spot there, because we have just moved a lot of coral on because it was just getting too full.
Yeah.
So I couldn't put anything else in. So now I've made that little spot there. I don't know if you can see that spot there.
Yep.
That's where I think the PC rainbow is going to go, and see how well I do with that. But I'm in no rush, to be honest with you. I mean, the tank's just ticking along really nicely.
Yeah, well, that Ponape is really going to spread out too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those things get huge.
If you can see it there now, there you go. Really, really spreading there.
It's got really nice color.
It's lovely. Yeah, I think it's like a limeberry colour when I bought it as a frag.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can see a top-down view of it there, so you can see.
Oh yeah, I had those in my 20-gallon Nano right on top of the rocks. I learned a lot about coral placement from that tank, and one thing that I learned to be ready for was growth, because I really underestimated if they started doing well how fast and big they grow. So when I was dismantling it to get everything ready to move to the Red Sea tank, I couldn't even break that bird's nest off the rock. That is how strong and thick and well it grew. I had to actually frag it back a bit at a time, because the main trunk of it was probably 3/4 of an inch across, and it all grew out from there. It was just amazing.
I don't know if
That's
you can
so
see
pretty.
there with that miller there. Yeah, he's really, really nice bright pink, but as you can see, he's basing for fun now.
Yeah.
Really starting to take off. And Digi behind him.
Yep. Yeah, it looks good.
The Monty at the back. That side, like the hardware with Monty's, like you were saying about growing so quick. I didn't realise how quick they grow. And before you know it, they've overtook everything. So that's why he's at the back there. So he's got all that room to grow now, so I don't have to worry about it. Same with this fella here down here.
That's a hard decision to make. I have to make that decision about the new tank. Where am I going to put all of the pieces of Montipora that I have? I have a bright green one. It's supposed to be encrusting, but it's always plated. And I have the Starburst. I have a whole bunch of pieces of that, and a red one. I'd like to get a purple one back again. But where in the heck am I going to put them to allow them space to grow the way they should grow?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of debating putting them so that they grow inwards into the center of the tank, because I have the rocks at the back are like a kind of an art, like a a circular shape, like a courtyard, coming forward at the sides. So I'm kind of wondering about putting some Monties along there so that they grow in towards the middle, and we'll see.
Well, I don't know if you can see just on the picture there, but the red and the green are intertwining. I don't know if you can see it. So I don't know if they're going to graft or whatever. I'm not sure. I mean, the green one's outgrowing the red one at the minute, but
yeah, I don't know whether one Monty will encrust on another or not, or whether they'll share their tissue. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a nice scrolling Monty.
Oh, hey, Benny. Benny's got to run. Thanks for coming by. And there's Chimp the Reefer. Hey, Chimp. And Benny's going to the LFS as well. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, and you've got sand on the bottom, right?
I do have sand over the side. There you go. It keeps it really, really white because we have really strong floor. It keeps it really, really white. But over this way, we don't have much sand. That's why I put the jack-o'-lantern there, just because I want him to encrust all on the bottom of the glass. So that's going to look really good when that happens.
Yeah, I have a war coral growing up the side glass of the observation tank that used to be Mollywood, and it's a good 2 inches up the glass. I've thought about getting like a razor blade and trying to see whether I can peel any of it off. But I have a feeling that it'll either all come off in one piece or I'll have smithereens. So I don't know.
There's a little Monty.
Oh yeah, I can see now. It's like it got a banana color to it.
It's lovely. Yeah, it's lovely. But there's a torch just in the back there.
Yep, that's pretty too.
Yeah. Actually shows up better under white. Actually, in my GSP, it's actually a toxic green GSP, but it looks more and more toxic under white lights, which is what my schedule runs in the morning time.
Yeah.
But my lights are not normally on at this time, so they're normally off. But because I've no fish or anything in here, I can turn them on.
Yeah.
Top
yeah, I've set up my light schedule to turn on at 10:30 a.m. and turn off at 10:30 p.m. because I finally accepted the fact that I'm not really downstairs to work on things before 9 p.m. That's kind of when I'm done all this, supper, cleanup, whatever. So I gave myself that extra hour and a half. And of course, I'm never down there at 9 in the morning when they come on. So we've shifted the light schedule. And I think that's what I'll do once I have the tank, is run at 10:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. so I can enjoy it later in the day.
Yeah. There you go. You can just see. This is like an orangey, pinkish type millie, this one.
Yep.
It's actually a very, very light pink when I got it about 4 months ago, so it's completely changed colour.
Yeah. And Marcus says his lights go on at 6 a.m. Marcus Aerolis. Hey Ryan, what are those little sticks below that pink one?
I'm not sure. I don't know. They've just suddenly appeared. I'm not sure what they are. I don't know if I can get a
because they don't look like vermeted snails to me.
No.
I mean, they're different. They've got a different form.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
And are they actually green, or is it just the light?
They're like green, yeah. The green with like whitish tips. So I'm not sure.
Weird.
When I go to my LFS next time, I'll take a picture and see if I know what they are. But
are they part of the frag or the rock that millie was on when you put it there, or was that on your rock?
Yeah.
So it came in with that.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the millie. But to be honest with you,
no. And does it change through the day at all? Like, do you get little fans?
Not really. No.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Nice.
Make out that one there. It is like a rainbow type millie, this one. The way it's growing. But you can see them all basing out now, which is good, which is what I want to see.
Yeah.
So they did at the back. So, yeah, the tank's doing well.
Looks good. Hey, Mr. DKH, welcome. Nice. Yeah. So cue balls, you've been battling dinos for about 6 weeks. Have you figured out why you got them or what type they are?
I looked under the microscope and figured them to be the amphidinium.
Right? That means nothing to me, but go ahead.
Well, it's from what I've learned in my research, it's the sand-dwelling type, which
Right.
is less toxic, but it's harder to fight because it's not in the water column, so UV doesn't really do
Oh,
good.
yeah.
So yeah, I've been battling. I have a nano tank upstairs, and I had it in the nano tank, and the way I beat it up there was I would siphon it just about every day, and it would always come back. But after about a month of just siphoning it out, it just kind of went away. And so that's the approach that I was trying to take down here, and it wasn't working. So I tried a 3-day blackout with some peroxide, and that took care of it for about a week and a half, and there was nothing there. And then it started to come back, and the side effect of doing that was just about, well, every piece of SPS coral that I have, I lost.
Oh, geez.
And a lot of my LPS were not happy. This is one of my micromusas, acans, whatever you want to call it these days.
Yeah, exactly.
That it was the entire size of that rock, and it's starting. You can see one of the heads bailed out on me, that white spot in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing was just flourishing, and he had some little guys on the side there, some different colored acans, but I lost them all. They're pretty much gone. My hammer decided to bail out, so he's gone. I've just been losing coral left and right. So that was after the peroxide. So I gave it a few days to try and, get some balance back. And now I've been dosing Microbacter 7.
Right.
And the Sponge XL. I watched Inappropriate Reefers video on what he did to fight this. So I'm kind of modeling my treatment after him. And it seems to be working now. I mean, my sand bed is starting to get white again.
Yeah.
But it was dark brown and just ugly. And it's been a week since I started trying the Microbacter 7 and the Sponge XL, and it seems to be making a difference. And my soft corals don't seem affected at all, because that's pretty much all I have left is softies. But yeah, we're fighting the fight. And
oh yeah, I don't know if you ever saw my inventory of death after my stagnant water tank crash, but man, oh man, that was heartbreaking. About 30 pieces of coral, and most of them torches, hammers, frog spawn. Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, it's been a rough month watching and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean,
no,
you can't let the dinos go, and you can't. You gotta treat something, and unfortunately, I didn't have a ton of pieces that went. I'm talking maybe 5 or 6 pieces of coral that I've lost so far. So, the trick to this is, and the part that's bothering me the most is everybody says, oh, if your nutrients are bottomed out, then you're going to get dinos. Well, my nutrients were never bottomed out.
Mm-hmm.
I run my nitrate at about 7 to 10, and my phosphate always lingers around 0.1. So it wasn't a lack of nutrients, and I know my balance was pretty close as far as nitrates to phosphates. So not sure how I got them, but
it sounds like the type that thrives on nutrients as opposed to the type that thrives on no nutrients, because there are the two different types, right?
I don't know.
Well, I shouldn't say two. There's like hundreds of types of dinoflagellates. They're everywhere.
Right.
It's just the certain ones that maybe proliferate for whatever reason, and some proliferate in the presence of high nutrients and others in the presence of low nutrients. And what people usually get is the ones with the low nutrients.
Right.
So who knows?
I mean, I know they exist always in your aquarium. It's just keeping them at bay is the trick. And all the videos that I've watched and all the research that I've done, it's a balancing act. And the tank is not even 8 months old. So, I mean, maybe it's part of the ugly phase, whatever. But when it started killing my corals off, that's when I really I needed to act on it.
Yeah. Well, Anirudh sent me a video of his aquarium. I'm going to try and upload it. We'll see if we can show it. Yeah, it's one of those things that you just download. Oh, all right. Can't do that right now, but I will later. Sorry. Sometimes some videos I get I can put up right away by sharing my screen, but others I have to sign in and do this and do that, and so I'll have to do that later. And thanks, Anirudh, if you're still here. I will show that next Saturday when we do the evening live stream. Marcus Aerolis is asking if you tried a cheap UV. You've got UV on this system, right? You mentioned that this is the type that doesn't benefit because they don't get into the water column.
Right. I did buy a cheap UV, and I'm not running it right now because I'm dosing the Microbacter 7, and the UV is not picky on what it's sterilized. So
exactly. Yeah.
I have it shut off. I turned my skimmer off. This was recommended. I watched a video. Jake Adams was at Reefapalooza, I think, just here a couple weeks ago. And somebody was talking about, fighting dinos and turning your skimmer off so that you're not skimming out the Microbacter 7 that you're putting in there, which made a ton of sense. So my skimmer is running, but it's not collecting. And I turned my UV off, and it seems to be working. So I have hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been running my skimmer because the nutrients had been low in this tank, and I've been turning it on once a day just so I don't have to break it in all over again. But I wondered about just running it for aeration purposes.
That's pretty much all I'm running it for now.
Even if you don't collect, even if you don't have the collection cup installed, and I don't know how most skimmers work. I mean, I know there's kind of a standard idea, but this Aqua Vitro division skimmer, you can set it to output a lot of water and generate a lot of air in the body, and yet keep the level low enough that it will never go up into the collection cup. And so I've been thinking about maybe running it all the time just for the purposes of aeration. But I just haven't had the time to stand there and mess around with fiddle with the water output and the air intake to get them balanced that way.
Right. Yeah, I'm just running mine. I did notice when I shut it off completely, I had a dip in my pH. My pH runs around 8.2, and when things are up and running normally. And when I shut the skimmer off completely for 2 days, my pH dropped down to 8. And I mean, that's not, you know, a big deal, but I didn't want to upset the balance of the tank any more than I had to. So I'm just running now. My pH is back to 8.2, and, you know, everything seems to be doing okay with that. So it's more for just aeration at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I could sure use the footprint that my skimmer's taking up to put more stuff in that 100-gallon from Mollywood. My original intention was to take the big rock structure in Mollywood and put it in the other system, and then, well, the OT would be completely empty. And then I just thought, I don't have room for it. The clownfish is happy in her green hairy mushrooms, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So we'll see what happens. But the thing is that I want to leave the skimmer there because when I do need to turn it on, I'll be able to.
Yeah, and it'll be good to go.
Yep. Yeah, so many things. And I mean, it's my aquarium right now, but I can't think of it as an aquarium because it's just a series of stock tanks with water flowing through that I can only look at from the top. And all I see when I look down is giant areas of what used to be empty rock covered with algae, like hair algae, and it just drives me crazy. But, you know, I just have to take my time and try to get some control over it. I actually reduced the amount of food I was putting in because I was getting a little bit free with the mysis and the flakes and everything. So I cut that in about half. And now hopefully the fish will understand that, no, they're not getting a big supper every night, that they're going to have to forage during the day on the algae. Matt Greer. Oh, here's a thought. Hey, Matt Greer. I hung a large piece of filter floss opposite a power head to remove manually. So I'm guessing the dinos would get caught in the floss as they, if you could get them up in the water column by fluffing the sand. Does that work?
Well, what I do is about every third day, I just take I have a tube with sand. It's a vac to do water changes. And
I have one of those.
Go in and I run the tube into a filter sock down in my sump.
Yeah.
And I just vacuum what I can as much as I can.
Yeah.
And it's almost daily maintenance that I'm doing on the tank just to try and suck out what I can. And that definitely helps. I've been doing that for the past 2 weeks, about every other day, maybe every third day. And that's what I did on my Nano tank upstairs. I just vacuumed the sand into a filter sock. And
yeah, I had the vacuum type that pulled the water and the sand up into a little bag that attached to it. And then I'd be dumping out the bag after rinsing it and then doing it over and over and over again. It was when I had the dinos, it was after I had hired somebody to look after my tank while we were on vacation. And I don't know what the heck happened, but I came back and I had an actual mat of green slime floating on the top of this thing and dinos everywhere. And I didn't know what they were when I first walked in the door, and started to cry when I saw it, 4 a.m. when we got off the plane and got home, at the condition of the tank after I had paid a fish store guy to look after it for 2 weeks. And anyway, so it took me 3 months of daily removal of that stuff with a turkey baster, with a gravel vac, cleaning the sand. And the GSP stayed closed the whole time. And finally, when they started to open, I realized I was getting ahead of it. So it was early in my reef keeping days, probably maybe 3-4 years experience. And it was before I discovered YouTube. So I did as much reading as I could online on forums. And I realized that it was probably dinoflagellates, but I didn't really order stuff online back then. I shopped in person. I really didn't know about the access. And of course, you know, that would have been 2013, 2014. It really wasn't what it is today. So, you know, I couldn't use chemicals, or I didn't use chemicals. It was just manual removal and water changes. And yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. And
Yeah.
I know in my Nano tank, it was, boy, how to describe it. It was definitely more, it was easier to deal with because it was a nano tank and it was very localized in specific places. And I could just get in there and vacuum it out and there was no problems. But when you're dealing with a 180 gallon tank, water changes are much more expensive, and the time that it takes to vac the sand is, you know, hours instead of minutes. And it's a newer tank, so, you know, I was expecting all sorts of ugliness with this. At first I thought it was diatoms, because it was just in the sand and it wasn't going away at night. So I thought, just diatoms as part of the ugly phase. But then I noticed that my snails were kind of dying off slowly. And that raised a few red flags about, well, maybe this is dinos. So I went to the Hobby Lobby here in town and bought a $20 microscope and took a peek under the microscope and saw that it was definitely dinos.
Yeah. Well, hey, Peter M., thanks for coming by. See you in the next worldwide stream. Yeah, love to see your tank if you feel like it. Yeah, it is a learning curve, and I really think now, and I always say this to my husband about people who don't train their dogs. There's no excuse not to train your dog. For heaven's sakes, you have Google, you have YouTube. You know, you don't have to go and pay somebody. You can learn how to do it. And I guess it's kind of the same if we're starting off in the hobby now, but you still have to take the time and have the patience and have the ability to sort the good information out from the bad. But the information is there, at least, you know, now it is. But back when I started, it was like, you know, I got this 30-gallon long, and it had really nice rocks in it, and they were covered in the most gorgeous purple blanket. And in some places it was a quarter of an inch thick. And I didn't know it was cyan, or what am I looking for? Cyano? Is it cyano that forms blankets like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it might be something else that I found out at the time. But anyway, I took the pictures into the fish store, and I went, yeah, but like, it's looking really good. And they just looked at me. And that's how I found out that purple blanket was not good. So, you know, back then it was a lot of legwork and everything else. And now there's just so much more availability of information and wide sources of information. And you can go online and buy stuff that, you know, I had no idea where to buy some of this stuff that I would have had to use at the time. So, yeah.
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the hardest part is trying to sort out the good information from the anecdotal information.
Yep.
Is, you know, every tank is different, and people put different things in, different salt, different additives. And, you know, your experience is going to be different than my experience, and everybody wants to share their experience, and that's a great tool. But when you break it down to the nitty gritty, you know, there's a reason why the dinos took over my tank. And, you know, trying to figure out the reason and then trying to figure out how to solve the problem is part of my approach to it.
Yeah. I've always been that way too. Sometimes you have to apply a Band-Aid solution in order to save livestock. Every once in a while you run into that situation, but I've always wanted to discover the source and correct whatever that was happening whether it was something I was doing wrong or something I didn't realize was happening as a response to something else I did. You know, figuring all of that out is where the experience comes in. And even after 11 years, I'm still, you know, I'm like, sometimes I just shake my head and I think, what on earth am I taking on with this big tank? I used to think that like 100-gallon tank was big. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got like it calculates at 360, but it'll be about 325 and all this rock and man, oh man. So I just have to forget about all that and kind of just take it slow and try and have a plan, you know, and hope that it all works out, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, in my experience so far, I would rather take care of 10 30-gallon tanks than this 180. It's like I said, it's been up and running for almost 10 months now, and it's been almost a daily grind to try and get everything balanced out and looking good. And my Nano tank, I mean, I barely touch it, and it's just thriving. And I wish this one were that easy. And I think, you know, at some point it'll find its balance and everything will work itself out. But when you start to look at the time and the money that I've invested in this tank compared to the Nano tank, it's like, why did I do this?
How long has your Nano been running?
Almost a year.
Yeah. I was going to say my first year with the Red Sea tank, I'm going to have to go back and watch some of those videos because every once in a while I run across a little clip when I'm looking for something and I totally forget that that's what it was like at the time. But I would say it took the better part of 3 years for me to feel like that tank hit its stride. And, you know, I had 2 crashes in that time. I traded coral in and out when it got too big, and I gradually migrated all the softies out. I had a giant colony of Palithoa grandis that was the size of a cantaloupe, and a couple other types of soft corals that I took to a fish store and got some credit, and, you know, all of those evolutions. And then just when the Red Sea tank was starting to really do well, other than overcrowding, that was when we decided to move, and I had to, of course, dismantle it and move the contents. So that's the other thing. I can't imagine moving from here like ever. This is going to be it because we're close to family. Once I have that tank in here, that is a major, major commitment. So, you know, as long as I'm physically able to look after it. So that's the goal, to get it through the 3 years and find out what happens next.
Yeah.
You know, because so many tanks you see, people are changing in and out, in and out, in and out. And you rarely get to see mature tanks like Melev's tank. I love that thing. That's a mature reef. And Scott, Mile High Reefer, love his tank. And that's kind of my goal, is to have something that's settled into its own ecosystem, you know?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I really, Travis's tank from Fish a Hex. I loved his old videos when that thing was just full and exploding with sticks, and, you know, having to trim it back all the time like he does. It's kind of it's kind of a bummer because that thing was just amazing to look at. And same with Scott and Mark. I mean, their tanks are just and they're older tanks. You know, that's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. And, you know, I guess I got a 3-month start on it because the stuff that's downstairs. But, oh yeah, it's an adventure and it's a commitment. Right now we're getting quotes on generators, whole house generators, because if I'm going to have as much money as I'm going to have tied up in this thing, I really don't want to risk it to an overnight power outage. And around here, the power is known to be fairly stable, until something happens and a transformer blows up and it takes out half the town and it takes 2 days to fix it.
Yeah.
So, and that can happen anytime. And we can and look at the ice storms and that's the climate we're headed into. So we're going to get the generator, and that's a major commitment too, because it's not cheap, but in the end, it'll be peace of mind, because it'll mean that we're going to get the transfer switch. So even if we're away from home and something happens, we don't have to worry. It's all going to automatically transfer, and it'll keep running.
Yeah, I learned that lesson last summer. We lost power for almost 14 hours, and
Ooh.
after 2 hours, I started to get nervous, and it was a trip to the local hardware store and picked up a little generator just to run the fish tanks.
Yeah.
And my wife wasn't too happy about it, but when she saw that the power wasn't coming back on, she was like, yeah, we need to do something, because we have a lot of money invested in these tanks, and
Yeah.
she didn't want to lose any livestock any more than I did. So
Yep. Yeah, I lost a pygmy hawkfish to an 11-hour overnight in my 29-gallon cube. That's the one that had the dinos. And I was going for 15 minutes every hour. I would sink a cup of water into the tank, lift it up, and pour it just to keep the aeration going. I would get a wooden spoon and move it through the water, 15 minutes out of every hour. After a couple hours, and it became obvious. But one thing I didn't do that I should have done was wrap the tank to preserve the heat. And the only casualty was the pygmy hawkfish. I think the tank got down to somewhere around 68 degrees. And that was the one fish that passed. The rest were okay. And I took care of the flow. And that's what taught me: flow and heat. You don't need light, but as long as you have flow and heat, you can usually get through.
yeah, that's all I did too. Was I ran my heaters, and I ran a power head that was pointed at the surface just for water movement. And the tank, between the 2 hours that the power was off before I got the generator going, the tank got down to, I think it was around 60 degrees, 58 degrees. Like I'm like, all right, I got to do something. And of course, it's cold, and it's raining, and it's nasty outside, and I'm trying to get a generator started, and I can barely feel my fingers. And yeah.
Oh, hey, the Herm. Yeah, definitely agree with having beautiful grown-out reef tanks. So beautiful. I do need to start pruning one of my tanks. Too much overgrowth. Beautiful to look at, though. Yeah. Yeah, we had a planned power outage with notice here in town. 2 of them, actually. One was for 2 hours in the middle of the night, and the other was for 5 hours. So we just let the 2-hour one happen without doing anything other than having a battery backup. And it's like a UPS, the little black box, right?
Right.
So into that, we plugged the return pump, so we would have flow through the whole system. And we left the Inkbird plugged in, because our reasoning was that even if the water heater component of the heating system wasn't turned on, because those tanks are so well insulated these days, the 4 gallons of water that was in there should retain some heat for a considerable amount of time. And I think it went down maybe a half a degree, according to the Inkbird. And by the end of it, that water was continually circulating, but that was only for about the last 20 minutes or so. So the temperature didn't fluctuate very much at all, but that was just for maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes, something like that, because the UPS, because it's a DC pump, it ran for the whole time. It kept it going. They're meant to last maybe 45 minutes, but this thing was a trooper. So for this, we lost Ryan. So for the 5-hour one, though, we got the generator out, ran the cord in the window that's right beside there, put it beside the porch, and ran it for the 5 hours. But we didn't plug the heater into it because we weren't sure if that would overload it, because it's a 1300-watt heater, and we just didn't know. And we got one of those short, heavy-duty extension cords that one end of it has 3 plugs, and it's a GFCI. So we were able to plug the Inkbird and the pump into it and have the generator run them. So the temperature really did start to drop, of course, after the 2 hours. And when it got down to around 70, we decided to plug the heater in, and it ran fine. So now we know that a little gas generator with one of those 3 plug extension cord things will maintain flow and heat in our system as it is right now. And that was really good information to have, because between now and when we get the actual generator installed, which is looking like it could take till almost the end of the year because of how backlogged they are with availability. Until then, if something happens, we know that we can get through. We got through 5 hours, and as long as we have enough fuel to run the generator, we should be okay. So, not that you want it to happen, but we knew about it ahead of time. And I have video too of standing downstairs with the camera, and all of a sudden everything goes black. Yeah. Oh, Ryan had to jump off. Thanks for letting me show the tank. Can't wait to do it again soon, hopefully with some more bright SPS. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the time you took to come, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you get, because it's looking nice. Something for that big open space you have reserved over on the left there. That'd be really cool. Hey, Damon, welcome. So how long have you had your yellow tang? Is it pre-price skyrocket, or
Oh
have you
yeah,
had him for a while?
yeah. He's been in. He started off in my 72 gallon, and I kind of did that on purpose so that when he started to grow, I could convince my wife, "Oh, time for a bigger tank." And yeah, it worked out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah, he's probably about a year and a half I've had
Oh, yeah.
him.
Nice.
And
I love how the Blennies cruising around in there.
you know, he's the ugliest fish I've ever seen, but he's the coolest fish I've ever seen.
We always call them the Dr. Seuss fish.
Yeah, they're just they're the weirdest thing I've ever encountered in my life. Just the way that they look and the way that they behave. And but yeah, he's been in here for quite a while. He started off, he looked like a minnow. I mean, he was so small, and he just does his thing and doesn't stop eating, and now he's a chubby little monster.
Yeah, I had Jack Blenny in my 29 cube, and I think he rammed himself into a rock and did some brain damage at one point. Because all of a sudden one day he was swimming in spirals, and he would kind of not be able to get himself horizontal. Like, it was really weird. I have video of it. I did actually do a video of it. And so I took him out, and I got one of those colanders that has a handle that's kind of squared off in one corner where the handle is, and then it's round. And it fit perfectly in the corner of the tank to where the bottom of it was under the water. So I put him in there so that there'd still be flow so that I could watch him. And his stomach kept getting fatter and fatter. And I don't know what that was about, but I did a little bit of reading. And so I thought, okay, maybe he's like constipated or blocked in some way. So I gave him a couple of dips in salt water with Epsom salts mixed in, and essentially started feeding him. He started eating, and I think he was in that thing for maybe a week, and he almost looked normal again. He was starting to move around on his own. At first he would just kind of lay there. He was breathing, and then he would kind of flop on the other side, but he wasn't swimming, right? And he lived another 2 years after that. So whatever that was wrong with them, I have no idea. Maybe he got scared, jammed himself into a rock, ate something he shouldn't have. I have no idea. But the colander thing worked. So
Yeah, I know mine. His belly. I mean, he looked like he swallowed a marble. And once the dinos started happening, I didn't really see him grazing anymore. And now his belly is more streamlined. He doesn't look like he's swallowed that marble anymore.
yeah.
But now that things are slowly getting back to normal, I notice him grazing more, and he's starting to get chubby again. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yep. Yeah, the walls of the stock tanks have a different kind of algae on them. And I've seen the Tomini tang grazing on that. I don't know about the mollies. I used to see them picking at algae all the time, and now I think they just wait for me to feed them, which is only once a day. So who knows? But that's why I'm really hoping the Blenny is finding lots and lots of places that he can actually get at the right kind of algae. Because, like I said, I haven't seen him since I put him in there. Well, I saw him the next day, but then that was it.
Yeah, I usually put a sheet of nori in here about every other day, just to make sure that the tangs are getting their nourishment. But it's weird. Every fish in here, even like my green chromis, they'll pick at the nori. My trigger, he loves it. The Blenny will wait until everybody else is done, and then he'll go up and just start tearing into it. So
yeah, my clownfish used to go after the veggie clips with the algae sheets in the Red Sea tank. And I eventually had to put 2 clips in because the female clownfish would chase everybody else away. And I think it's because where I was putting the clips was too close to her territory and she didn't like it. So I would put one there and one on the front, and she'd have to go back and forth, because eventually she developed a real hate for those veggie clips with the swinging thing on them. And she couldn't keep up with it. So eventually everybody managed to get something from one or the other one of them, but it was really funny to watch.
yeah, I actually had to, my veggie clip, if I just put the nori on the clip, now it's floating away. Anyway, if I just put the nori on the clip, the tangs would come and just tear it to shreds, and they would leave these big chunks floating around the tank. So I actually took some of the screen, some of the mesh that I built my screen top with, and I kind of built a little cage, and now they can't do that. So
yeah, there's a feeder you can get. I have one that's kind of along the same idea, and it has small holes throughout, and then you put the sheet behind, close the back, and it magnetizes on the side. And they're meant to go and pick at it from there, but they never really took to it in my tank. They like the clips. And so what I do is I get a half of a sheet and I turn it into a little accordion, and I kind of clip it in the middle so the ends are sticking out, and I drop little drops of Celcon in either end, just a couple, and wait for that to soak in, and then I put that in the tank, and they can still tear at it, but they can't get big pieces off.
how much do one of those cages go for?
It's not cheap. I think it was around I don't know, $20, something like that.
That's why I went with the mesh screen, because I thought, well, this is probably a couple pennies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it does the same thing.
Right.
I think a lot of it is what they get used to. You know, they don't like seeing foreign things in their tank. Some of them will avoid it. Others will try and kill it. So yeah.
Yeah, I tried that mesh screen just to see, because I know they're used to the veggie clip and it sways, in the flow and everything. And I thought, well, maybe they won't be able to see this because it's clear, and they'll still be able to see the nori. And yeah, no problems whatsoever. They tore right into it.
Nice. Good idea. Yeah, so I was going to ask everybody this. If anybody who's listening has a Eurobrace tank, or if you do cue balls, what do you do about lids? Like how, first of all, do you think they're necessary if it, with a wide brace? Will that brace reduce the ability of the fish to jump out? Because really that's why you have a lid. Or should I be looking at what I'm going to do about a lid? Because the thing is, this tank is 60 by 66. The brace is 4 inches, which means it's essentially 52 by 58. And it's all one opening. So I'm going to need either a 2-piece lid where the part in the middle is strong enough to span 52 inches without collapsing. So I don't know what that has to be made of to do that. Or I don't know. I'm not sure. Or I get something that is in a mesh frame where the entire frame sits on top of the brace. And then I got to move the thing or slide it if I need to get into the tank. So anybody got any advice on lids for Eurobrace? I don't know anything about it. I haven't done any reading yet. Crickets.
I would think I would look at Moki's tank for the inappropriate reefer.
Yeah.
Because I think he had the Euro brace, and I know he has a screen top on his. I'm not sure what he mounted it on there.
Is this the 130?
Yeah.
I'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if he built it himself or if somebody built it for him, but I'm pretty sure that he has some sort of mesh top on there, and he's got the little feed port and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because mine, I mean, the top of mine is got the 2 bars going across the top.
Yep.
So my screen tops were pretty easy. I got just the mesh tops that I bought from BRS.
Yep.
And created those myself. I know some of the people that I've seen online with bigger tanks, they have little clips that you can put on the Euro bracing,
mm-hmm.
and then you build your screen top, and they kind of sit on those clips.
Yep.
So that might be something that, would be a viable option.
Yeah, the Innovative Marine Tank, the OT, it has clips that go on the rim with a little protrusion, like a little ledge that sticks out.
Right.
And so the lid is like set down in, so it's flush across the top. And those are really nice. And I was looking at them the other day thinking, I wonder if there's a way to adapt these, or if you can get them for like 5/8 inch thick glass with some sort of a way to have that sticking out horizontally, out from, like, it would have to be an H shape, whereas the clips that I have on the Innovative Marine Tank are an inverted U with something sticking out, more like a T on its side, whereas one's going on for horizontal would have to go over the Euro brace and then have the little piece sticking out into the tank. I don't know. I have to look into it.
Yeah, I would shop your local hobby shops and see if there's anything that you can create yourself, because I know a lot of those name brand things are so expensive to buy, and if you can MacGyver something together on your own, it's probably a lot cheaper.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the biggest problem is the span, because I know that the screen tops that you can get, even for a 6-foot tank, it doesn't come with a 6-foot stretch of framing that's rigid enough to hold its own weight.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want something going across that's going to dip in the middle. So I don't know. The Clearview lid I had on the Red Sea tank, I absolutely love that thing. But even that material, the polycarbonate, I don't know whether it would be rigid enough unsupported going 52 inches. No idea. So I don't know. I'll have to do some looking into it. I mean, I know that the profile of whatever the support is, if you can get something that has the correct profile, that it won't deflect down under its own weight, you know, like not just a flat piece of something, but something that has ridges or something on it, you know, that kind of like the same theory as T-slot aluminum for stands. It
Right.
becomes, you know, it becomes stronger if it has a profile with perpendicular veins in it, if you will. Have to see if I can find something like that.
Well, watching your videos for a couple years now, Cindy, I'm pretty sure you're going to come up with something innovative.
Yeah. 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 It may work, it may not. Another weird little project.
Well, just watching your lighting video the other night, I'm like, man, I need to hire her company to come down here and help me out with something.
And you know, it's funny, you know, when people talk about trying to solve a problem, it doesn't even matter what it's about. My brain is always working. And my husband's the same way. And honestly, the whole canopy thing, I'm not kidding. It took him a long time to come up with the basic design and just the execution of it, getting all of those almost 50 holes drilled in exactly the right spots. And the whole idea is we can move the light if I need to move it one way or the other, because I won't know one until the rocks are in. I really won't know, like, oh, geez, maybe that Atlantic needs to go back a little bit. But we can move the sidebars in, and we can move the Atlantics forward and back about an inch and a half. So there's a total, including the space the hook takes, it's a total of about 4 inches between the extreme positions. So it's pretty good, because I mean, we looked at, okay, you know those industrial steel curtains that they have sometimes in foundries and places like that,
Yeah.
and they're attached to tracks on the ceiling.
Mhm.
We looked at getting some of that tracking, because the whole thought was, well, if we could slide the lights, then all we'd need to do is find a way to lock them in place just by putting a bolt in or a screw or some sort of a fitting. And then if we wanted to move them completely out of the way, we could slide them completely out of the way. And I had a little drawing that showed how everything could slide to a maximum out of the way without hitting each other. But we priced it, and it would have cost us almost $600 in hardware alone to be able to put together a track system like that. Because it isn't the track that costs, just like these DIY screens, it's the little tiny fittings that allow you to change direction, that put stops on the end of the track, the little wheels and bolts that go inside the track, and all of that stuff. Super, super expensive.
Yeah.
Because they're all bespoke. They're all custom made for those tracks. So anyway, we had a lot of different ideas for that, but I'm pretty happy with what we actually finished up with, because I think it gives me enough room to get into the tank, because that was the other aspect of it. Yeah, the canopy doesn't come down to cover the lights like most canopies do. But if I'd done that, I would have had literally 12 inches to be able to get into the tank. And it wasn't going to work. And so that's why we put the canopy up higher. And even though the lights, when I look at them, well, maybe it's a little more than 12. It might be like 14 above the top of the tank. It still gives me room to get in. Plus, if I have to, I can move those lights out of the way. And they're all hung with the hooks facing outward. So even if I have to push on the light and tie it out of the way, it's not going to slip off the hook and go in the tank, because it's pulling, again, it's pulling away from the open side of the hook. You know,
Right.
and this is the level of planning that I was talking about, where Like we just tried to think of everything that could possibly go wrong, right? And I'm sure there's something we haven't thought of, because there always is.
It was impressive to watch that video, because the amount of thought that had to go into all that. You know, I hung my lights in 7 minutes, and I can only imagine how long it took you guys to get that up there.
Well, it was it's the stressful part of thinking about it. That takes a long time, because just like anything to do with the reef, the biggest thing that holds me back is having the plan. Until I have a plan, I can't do it, because I need to be ready for whatever. And even moving Mollywood, the OT, back here, I didn't feel like I had a plan. And the whole time we were doing that, I was worried something was going to go wrong. It went fine, and this was the same. It was like on our minds for so long, and we finally just, went for it. So yeah, it worked out. And I can't imagine anything come crashing down, because man, oh man, you could, like, six 200-pound men could hang from the edge of that thing. I don't think anything would happen. So we'll have to see. I'll have to do some reading about doing a lid, because I probably will have some types of wrasses, but I'm not getting the halicaries types, because they're just I discovered I like corals more than I like wrasses. So,
Yeah, I only went with lids on this because I've had too many carpet surfers. I lost clownfish of all things.
Yep.
I've lost 3 clownfish to carpet surfing. So I said when I started this big tank that I'm definitely going to put some sort of lid on there.
Yeah. It can happen to any fish. I mean, they get into it, they start swimming really fast, they hit the wall, they go straight up and out.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're trying to escape, it just happens because of their behavior. And that's what made me wonder if there's any, stories out there or evidence of having a 4-inch ledge around the top preventing some of that. I mean, worst case scenario, the fish will knock himself out, but he'll be right back in the water. I don't know. I remember Moki, inappropriate reefer, ending up losing one of his yasha gobies that was small enough to fit through the mesh on the lid, and then perished because it couldn't get back down in the water.
Yeah, I remember that video.
Yep. And it makes you feel horrible, because you think, well, if I hadn't had the lid, it would have survived. So I don't know, maybe the answer is like a dome. Like a, like reverse barbed wire, that, like a dome of mesh that goes up and around, and I could tether it to hooks in the ceiling. And no, I'm just kidding.
That's outside the box.
Yeah. I hate to think of the par settings on the lights, like how bright I'd have to turn them up to compensate for mesh on an angle blocking the light, because, like, it's one thing for it to be horizontal, but you start putting it on an angle, suddenly you have an almost impenetrable surface, right? Or pathway for the light. I don't know. I'm sure I'll come up with something weird. Oh man. Well, we got 20 people watching. What do you think? I think I'm going to go and see if I can rustle something up. My husband's gone to my daughter's place to watch documentary films that are being streamed. There's a festival here called Hot Docs that's gone online because of COVID. So they're in the last weekend of it. And I think he loved the surprise of coming home to having supper cooked instead of A&W or something like that.
Yeah, it's the little things.
Yeah. Anyone in the chat have any questions or want to talk about anything, or questions for Cue Balls about his lovely tank? On the right there, on the bottom, the purpley thing that's waving.
Yeah.
Is that a Goniopora?
Nope. It is. Yeah. Oh.
Oh, pulsing xenia?
There we go. Couldn't think of the word. Yeah,
Wow, that's a nice color. It's like a purpley.
very purple, and I've tried him in multiple locations in the tank, and they were flat and not very happy. So I put it here one day on a whim, and they don't wave anymore, but they seem to be much happier. And he's on his own little rock island, so I didn't want him to spread throughout the tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of looks like a Gonny, so I'm happy with the way it looks. But I just kind of let it sit there and do its thing, and it seems to like its home.
Yeah, that's a good solution, having it on a separate rock. And it doesn't look like your classic xenia, I guess partly because of the color.
Yeah, it's definitely a purple, almost like the Lavender Tang color.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's just the light. I think it looks to me like it's actually that color. Marcus Aurelius is asking if it's Anthelia. I think
Mm,
I think Anthelia has a lot longer stems and larger polyps, if I'm not mistaken. But Anthelia does come in purple.
yeah, it's definitely a pulsing xenia, because if I turn the flow off and once the flow settles, it'll start
Hmm.
pulsing.
Yeah.
And but I like the way it kind of flows, and it reminds me of a Gonny, and
Yep.
it's happy there, so I just let it go.
Yeah, it looks really healthy. It's not shrinking in from the flow or anything.
Mhm.
Nice.
I don't know if I take this filter off, if no, that's worse. Definitely worse. Yeah, he started off just a tiny little frag, and I planted him on this rock, and he completely took over the rock. And every now and then I'll see it'll drop a polyp, and I'll find it floating around the tank, and
Hmm.
take it out, because I definitely don't want it to spread.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Uh,
I learned
aesthetically.
yeah, very nice. I learned the hard way. They climb. They don't grow down, they grow up. And if they're touching anything else, they'll fasten onto it and keep growing up. And I learned that in the side of Mollywood, OT, because right now that's where I have pulsing xenia growing all up the side in various small clumps. But the green hairy mushrooms are stopping it at the top. They're not able to get past. There's one that's up there that's shrinking back. So I don't know, maybe that will contain them, but I'm really on the fence about putting them in the new tank, because as much as I really do like them and I love when they pulse, my husband really likes them. I'm same as you. I'm just so afraid of them starting to spread. And if they get somewhere that you don't notice and they take hold, then it's really hard to get them back.
Yeah, there I turned the flow off, and of course now they're not going to pulse. Yeah, it when the flow's off and it's all stretched out. If it wasn't for the pulsing, it kind of almost looks like a suspiciolaria too. But
Yeah, yeah.
the color is just purple, and I've had this for a long time. This started in my Nano tank and moved on to the 72, and now it's here in the 180.
I think it's one of the first corals people get is
That
pulsing xenia. Well,
that
that's
and
what my
GFP.
yeah, yeah. That's what my LFS said. He can sell those frags all day long. Cool.
Yeah, I could probably sell that and the Kenya tree that I've got up there, which frags itself.
Yep.
I actually had this when I tore down my 72. I put all the old rock in a tote, and I had this piece in the tote for almost 6 weeks with no light, no heat, no nothing, and took them out and glued them to the rock just to see what would happen because I needed a piece of rock. And here we are 10 months later, and he's just, it's like you can't kill him. They're like the Terminator.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is that a Gorgonian you have in the middle there?
Yeah, I've got some Grub's Gorgonian. I got that from Fish a Hex.
I love those, the dark purple with the gold polyps. And are they a photosynthetic type?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I could. I've fragged this. I've got a piece there. I've got a piece down here. Piece over here.
Yep.
It's all throughout my Nano tank upstairs, but it's super easy to frag and it grows really fast.
Nice.
And yeah, I got that from Travis. And I'm pretty much down to just softies now, thanks to all the dino treatment.
Well, when you're, I mean, you've been keeping up when you're ready to get SPS again, I'm sure he'll have a good sale that'll be timed well for you.
Yeah.
It'll
The
be
one
you know,
piece of SPS that I still have from Travis is a green slimer.
yeah.
And it was completely browned out. So just on a hope and a prayer, I moved it up into the Nano tank because it's a lot more stable right now, and it's starting to get its green flare back to it, and
Nice.
hopefully it'll stay alive. But I just about every piece of SPS I have, I got from Travis, and they were all doing so well, and I was so pissed off whenever I started losing them. And yeah, I'll be getting in touch with Travis once this tank gets back to its stability.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because Big Bertha's been doing a lot of fragging, and he said something about he pretty much has to cut everything in order to move.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a matter of, I wonder if he'll even keep the 300 running at all, or if it's going to be no tank until he has the new setup.
I don't know. Every time he talks about it, he's back and forth.
Yeah.
So some weeks he says he's going to keep it as just a display tank, and then
Yeah.
But I enjoy shopping with him because, well, he's only 3 hours away, so my shipping costs are pretty low.
Yeah.
But every time I've ever ordered a frag from him, they're gorgeous and they're nice sized frags, and he runs a pretty good ship over there.
Yep. Good value for money from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think he works like 14 hours a day, so or more.
I'd love to
So,
go
you
work
know.
for him because I mean, just his attitude and his thought process is right on par with me. But you know, he's 3 hours away, so that'd be a tough commute to go work for Travis.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's really great because I've been following him since he had probably, I want to say 1,000 subscribers. Like it was way back. And just the progress of everything. And you know, there was a thing recently, Melov did a live stream, and his rant was that he's tired of people saying reefing is easy. And I can see both sides of it. I don't think it's easy. It's a lot of work, and you have to know it's a lot of the right kind of work. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But I think there are people who catch on to it right away. And I think Travis is one of those people who caught on to it right away. And I think that's why he's been so successful, because he works hard. I wouldn't say it's easy for him, but he understands it. He understood the complexity of it and was able to harness that and get success out of it in his tank. And I don't think a lot of people have that ability. I sure don't. It's a long, slow learning process for me. You know, and I think he's just, you know, maybe like they say, there's some people know how to play the piano without even learning. You know, maybe for him it's like reef keeping. He's made his mistakes, but I'm not sure he's ever made the same mistake twice.
Yeah, and that's the trick that I've
Yeah.
found. I mean, I dabbled in saltwater back when I was in my 20s. So back in, you know, the year 2000, around there, I dabbled in salt. It was just fish only.
Mhm.
But you know, I thought coral was for rich people.
Yeah.
But I've only been at this, you know, full time for about 2.5 years now. And you know, I owe a lot of my success to Travis, because I've watched countless hours of his videos for the aspect of it's more of a no BS type approach.
Yeah.
And you know, he breaks it down in terms that you should be able to follow even if you have no idea what you're doing. He broke his earlier videos, he really broke it down and made it understandable for someone like me, who's I've never kept freshwater. I never really did aquariums at all. And I always liked the saltwater fish, but never really wanted to get into corals. And then on a whim, I just decided to get back into the game. And then, you know, watching some of his videos, I got into corals. So it's, you know, you get out of it what you put into it, for sure.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And it just irritates me because aspects of it can be made easy if you have enough money to throw at it.
Oh, sure.
But even so, the more reliant you are on gadgets, you become, I think sometimes, doesn't apply to everybody, but the temptation is there to allow the gadgets to take over. So you maybe have that, you can go slide down that slope of slowly becoming less attentive. And, you know, I want to be hands-on and in there. I like the idea of being able to monitor stuff, but I still would follow it up with manual checking if something was amiss. I wouldn't just rely on a device to tell me. I'd want to confirm it, right? Or a test or whatever to confirm it. So I don't know. I don't know that I'll ever go any more automated than I'm thinking of with this hydros. Like I just it's just going to tell me a few things I need to know. I might be able to control some things with it on a very, very basic level, but beyond that, I like getting in there because you can look at your livestock and you can see things, you can get ahead of problems by noticing little tiny clues that you eventually have enough experience to recognize and not have the big problems suddenly fall on your head, because you can see when they start and start to creep up on you. And I think if you have too much automation, you like, I guess if your end goal is just to have a pretty reef tank, then maybe that's the sort of motivation behind that. But I don't know. I want to put in the work because then I deserve the reward.
Yeah. And I mean, my opinion is to each his own. You know, if you got the
Yeah.
money and you want to, you know, spend it on a $50,000 car, go buy a $50,000 car. If you want to spend $500 on a car, go do that. It's kind of the same, you know, thinking. You're gonna, you know, get what you get. But to me, all that technology doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
No.
Because I know a lot of people that I've seen, you know, pictures of their tanks, and they're running a skimmer and they're running Amazon lights, and they've got beautiful tanks.
Yep.
And you know, the opposite is true too. I've seen people with, you know, Apex everything and Trident and, you know, all these big name brand controllers, and their tanks look like crap. So
Yeah, and I think what happens is they get sold on the idea of starting out with the best of the best because that will guarantee success, and they don't have the knowledge base to understand what to do with the information they get or how to react when something happens, that it is such a slow learning curve. And I agree with you. Like I would never criticize people's decisions of what they buy, because everyone has their own reasons, but I will admit I sometimes think it's a mistake to go over the top too soon, because you get frustrated too quickly, because your expectations are that all of this is going to set you up for immediate success. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens, but it's not very common.
You see that in the forums all the time. People, why does my tank look like this? I have Apex, and I have, these super expensive lights, and my skimmer was $5,000. Why does my tank look like this? And I think it's just, people think that just because you have all this fancy technology means that you're going to have success. But if you don't understand what nitrates and phosphates are doing to your tank, then, there's no fancy equipment in the world that's going to teach you what you're doing wrong.
No. I mean, I guess I was kind of lucky when I started. I read a heck of a lot of Randy Holmes Farley articles about the chemistry. And I admit I tuned out when he starts to break it down to the molecules. And that's because at that point, my quest for knowledge was much higher level, in the sense that it needed to be more broad. But now there's stuff I'm going to go back and read when I get time, because I understand more about how those molecules interact, and what the results are, and what the impacts are on other molecules in other chemical compounds. Back then I didn't, but that was the only real source of detailed cause and effect information that was available, well before I ever found YouTube. And sometimes I feel lucky to have been through that phase, because I think it gave me a broader base of knowledge and more experience of what to do to find out what you needed to know.
Right, and that makes it easier to sort through the information that's out there, as far as what I should be paying attention to, and what is just somebody's opinion.
The
science.
And I can't. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the science doesn't change. The biology, the chemistry, that doesn't change, but people's experience and opinions are going to change. So, I mean, even me, fighting dinos, through forums and through videos and everything, there's 20 different ways that people have treated it before. But when you break down the actual science of it, it's basic biology that you're trying to sort through.
Yeah. Well, these are ecosystems. And for an ecosystem to be successful, there has to be balance. And our job is to discover when there are imbalances, what's causing them. And secondly, some imbalances don't matter as much as others, and figuring out which ones you need to react to right away, and which ones you need to allow to play out and go through their life cycle. So that comes with experience. And again, every tank is different, and everyone's experience is going to be different. And that throws a whole other level of complexity into it, Yeah.
Yeah, that's why so many people say, you need time and patience in this hobby to succeed. You don't need fancy equipment. I started my YouTube channel just to show that you don't need all the fancy bells and whistles to at least have a stable, decent looking tank. If you're a coral farmer, or you're trying to run a business of selling coral, then all that equipment is going to save you a lot. But when it comes down to it, if you're just trying to have a nice looking, successful reef tank, it'd be great to have all that equipment, but it's not, to me, it's not necessary.
Yeah, and coral farms and businesses, the stakes are so much higher. So it makes total sense that they would want alerts and alarms if something's going wrong. I totally get that. I just question and I think it does come down to expectations. I think it's really unfortunate that people are kind of sold the idea that spending money equals success. It's not true. I mean, some things like this freaking thing we're building here, it was not cheap, but we planned for it. And the only reason it was not cheap is because of the scale of it.
Right.
I mean, it's a whole other dimension of where you spend your money, like $800 on parts for my heating system. But then it's not going to fail me. It's in the same way that buying 500-watt heaters might fail me, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think the most expensive part of my whole setup is my skimmer, because I
Yeah.
wanted, that's part of the balance you were talking about,
Mhm.
and trying to keep your nutrients at a reasonable level. That to me is more important than, am I going to get, an alert when my salinity gets to 1.027 instead of 0.26.
Yeah.
And again, it would be nice, to have that sort of thing to give me an alert, but it's just as easy for me to walk down to my reef and pull out my reef ractometer and check,
Well,
and
and it's an example of if you have starfish and your salinity went from 1.025 to 1.027 over the course of a day, yeah, you'd worry about it because that will negatively impact them. But for the vast majority of the livestock, that's not an emergency.
right,
Whereas if your calc doser messes up and dumps all and empties the whole container in your tank, that's an emergency. So it's a matter of degree. And skimmers, I think, are one piece of equipment where you get what you pay for.
yeah,
And it's better that is something that I would spend extra money on. As it happened, mine wasn't expensive, but it's because I couldn't get the Deltec I wanted. And the fish store recommended this. It was something new. And I thought, okay, I'll try it. I'll give it a try. It wasn't a huge amount of money to spend, and we'll see. So far, I love it. So we'll see what happens with that. But I don't think you can cheap out very often with a skimmer and get away with it.
yeah. I started off with $100 skimmer from Amazon, and on my 72-gallon tank, and it did the job. I mean, it pulled out nasty, gross skimmate. And then when I switched I got a Reef Octopus,
Yeah,
and just the difference in maintaining my nutrients was night and day. So I could, you could see the difference
yeah,
in the bubbles. You could see the difference in the kind of skimmate you were getting out, and the ease of cleaning. All the little things were just night and day when it came to the different skimmers.
yeah. And plus the adjustability of some skimmers. Some have very, very little opportunity to make adjustments if you want a more wet or dry skim for various reasons, because you might want a dry skim so that you don't over skim, but you still want to maintain that aeration and everything else. And you might want a wet skim if you've put too much of something in the tank and you need to get it out there, food, for example, or anything like that. So to have the adjustability is also a good thing. And a lot of the really cheaper skimmers, because I had the hang on back sea clone, which worked great when it worked. And it did the job, but there was very little you could adjust on it.
Yeah. My lights are the same way. I started with Viper Spectra, the $100 Amazon lights, and my tanks were growing coral just fine. I had SPS, I had acros, everything was growing fine. The only reason I switched over to Kessels was because I got a hell of a deal. Somebody was getting out of the hobby and they were selling their lights, and I thought, hey, I would love to have those. I love the look, the shimmer, the different look that I get to my tank. And but in a heartbeat, I would switch back to the Viper Spectras, because they were doing the job just as good as the Kessels are doing. They just a different look.
Yeah, and that's an aesthetic, and that's part of it too. It's why you like certain corals over other corals. It's the aesthetics of it.
Mhm.
And that's important because otherwise we would all just put whatever was cheap as far as livestock goes and go, oh, we're successful. But if you want a thing of that you consider beautiful, then it involves certain choices that you make. And the Kessel AP 700, I have it over the 150 gallon downstairs. I absolutely loved the look of the Red Sea tank under that light. It was just amazing. And then when I added the Orfex, it got even better. But you need the surface flow to get that shimmer.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other aspect of it. Cool. Yeah, I think I remember one of the first times you were on here was, I think, just after you got those Kessels.
Yeah, shortly after, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had the Viper Spectras on my first visit with you. I had the Viper Spectras, and I think the next time I was on, I switched over to the Kessels.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully that guy got out of the hobby, and that's one thing about this that I love in this hobby is you're always going to find people that are switching out or upgrading or something like that. Even the tank that I got, the 180 gallon tank, I bought the tank for $300. Because
That's amazing.
somebody got out of the hobby. It was sitting in their garage, and all I had to do was clean it up, and I resealed the tank with new silicone. And you buy a brand new 180 gallon tank, it's more than $300 for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm always looking for those deals because you can upgrade a lot. Just finding people that are getting out of the hobby or people that are upgrading to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. And apparently that's quite seasonal with people getting out of the hobby. Somebody was saying it's like late summer because people tend to neglect their tanks in summer because they're so busy doing other things. And they don't want to go into the winter having to deal with it all. So they just decide to get out.
Yeah.
And so that's when you can find really good deals is late summer, early fall for people who are have decided to give it up. I can't imagine giving it up anymore.
Yeah, I can't either at this point.
It doesn't even cross my mind not to have some kind of a reef tank. Even, when I reach the stage of my life where I can't look after this thing anymore, I would probably still keep a tank, just a small tank, because I've had nanos before. And just for the sheer pleasure of looking at it and, like how cool would it be to have like maybe a 40 breeder that was shallow, like the 40 breeder footprint, but not so deep, and have low rocks and shrimp and gobies. Like it just there's certain little kind of specific creature collections you could have that would still be fascinating. That wouldn't have to be a giant tank.
Yeah, I would love to do. I'm at the point right now, things are just running on autopilot, and I'm so antsy to build something else. I'm constantly looking for some way to, do a new aquascape or start a new tank, because I love that part of this hobby where you can just build something and put a different fish in there with, some sort of weird setup. And right now I'm at a point where I've got nothing to do with these tanks, and it's like it almost makes me want to tear the whole thing down and start all over again, because to me that was the fun part, was building the aquascape or selecting which corals go where and building the stand. That to me was so much fun. And now that everything's built and up and running, it's like, well, now I just get to sit back and watch it, and I don't even get to put my hands in the tank anymore.
Well, I enjoy that part of it, and for me it's part of the process. So I'm more of a goal-oriented person in some ways, although the process and the planning and everything, like, to me, you just have to get through it. because the goal is ultimately to have the thing up and going and growing. And I've started, like, this is probably the 9th tank I've started. Some of them were going all at the same time and whatever. I don't think I've come across my favorite tank yet, because every single one of them has ended up having drawbacks in the end. And when I think about it, those drawbacks were related to size, because I've always wanted to be able to grow big corals, have big fish. So maybe this will be my favorite tank, because I'll finally have something that will allow me to do that. And at this stage, I've learned to be a little more careful at curating what I have. So I'm hoping I don't go down that path of overloading this tank so much that everything's growing into each other and not doing well because of it. So I guess we'll find out in a couple of years where it's at, and figure it out, you know.
Yeah,
Calypso's just got back, found the right container. Just get a 10,000 gallon of scuba suit, then you're set. That's Marcus.
oh yeah,
Wallace.
there we go.
Yeah, I think I'm pushing it to get the 300 plus another 265 downstairs. That's, by the time I'm done, it's about 600 gallons, and that seems like a lot of water to me. So hopefully I'll be satisfied with that. And I think the footprint, the 5x5, because when I stand in this room and look at how big that is, it just makes me hope that I can get the variety in the space that I'm looking for, because it doesn't have the front to back limitation. It's only 5 feet side to side and 5.5 feet front to back, but that's like having 3 5-foot tanks I can look at. If I set it up properly, I can have 3 different 5-foot viewing panes.
Yeah, that's one thing that I wish, and maybe someday, is a deeper tank, not height wise. I'm talking depth.
Front to back, yeah.
Yeah, front to back, because the 6x2x2, it's nice to look at, but to me, it still looks like an aquarium. You know, I want more of that 3-dimensional reef look, where, you know, there's constant movement and fish everywhere. That to me would be a great footprint. So yours, you know, that to me sounds more appealing. And yeah, that would be a goal of mine someday.
Oh, it's like when we were out in our backyard this morning trying to decide where to put some trees, because we've got 4 trees coming tomorrow. One's going out front, and the other 3 are going out back, and then there's 1 more that we have here already. And I said to my husband, it's like when you're decorating your living room, you don't push all the furniture against the walls. So when you place the things, it's so that as you move, you're always seeing a different vista. So some things are here and you can see something behind it, and then as you walk along, something else is revealed. And I kind of look at the tank aquascaping the same way. It's like, as you move around the tank, you should constantly see new sort of viewpoints opening up, and things that you can't see from certain angles, and you go around the corner and then you can see it. And I did a little bit of that with the Red Sea tank, and I absolutely loved it. There were some areas of that tank that you could only see from one angle. And that's kind of what I want to try and do again, is so that as you're walking along looking at it, it's constantly changing. And with the Red Sea tank, it was kind of diagonally split, where I had my low arches up front and the pillars at the back, so that there was a lot of swimming room at the front. Well, I can't really do that with this tank because it's so much farther front to back. But what I can do is create areas where the fish can spend time and be safe, and yet other areas where they can be out in the open swimming around, but still be close enough to something to feel safe, and still have a lot of surfaces and places to put coral. And so ultimately, as you're walking around, it's going to be like you can't take everything in. There's just going to be so many different viewpoints. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to achieve. And then as things grow in and get bigger, the light changes on the bottom because it gets blocked by coral, like especially plating corals, and I love encrusting corals. So I want to see branches and arches just of solid encrusted corals of all different colors. And I've never in the past had a tank where I felt like I could accomplish that. It's been like a long-term thing that I really like. And I think encrusting corals are really underrated in a lot of ways. And I think it's because people look at them and they go, how do I frag that? You know, I really think that's what it is, because I was going to say earlier, I love it when I see people get into the hobby and say, yeah, I'm going to buy $3,000 worth of Acropora because, man, when I frag those, am I ever going to make a lot of money? I'm sorry, but you know, you're unless you're that 1 in 10,000 like Travis who gets it immediately, you're going to lose a lot of that before you actually start, you know, being able to get it to grow, right?
Yeah, I know that one of the most exciting things that happened to me in this hobby was I bought my first acro from Travis, and it started to grow, and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually doing it, you know. You know, you throw softies in a tank, and I still can't find a way to kill most of my softies. But you know, I bought one of those $500 FLO frags from Travis, and it just started to explode. The color, the growth, it was branching. I was so excited to think, oh, I'm finally getting this. And then dinos happened and I lost it. And it's like,
I know, and it happens. It can happen anytime.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Calypsos. Can't wait to see what you do with it. Get to see all the videos you make until it becomes a mature reef. Yeah, and I mean, you know, I'll take you guys on the journey, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I think your top-down views are going to look amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with maybe I'll get a drone. Wouldn't that be cool? A drone, and then what I could do is I could have the drone going over the tank, and I could have my phone on a tripod capturing the video of the drone capturing video of the tank, and then Jesus, I have to try that.
Well, there again, you can talk to Travis about flying drones.
Did you ever see his Insta post with the one drone taking off?
Oh yeah.
I watched that thing like 100 times, and every single time I laughed and jumped when the stupid thing took off. God, it was hilarious. You still planning on having a massive anemone in the middle? I don't know. I would love to have an anemone. The type is really going to depend on what kind of fish I get, because if I get a carpet anemone, I don't like, they're the really, really, really sticky ones. I really don't want to lose fish to an anemone like that. But I would still love to have a really gnarly rock with like a sea anemone of some type with a longer, like a Ritteri maybe, or a Magnifica, and have it for clownfish. I really would like that idea, but on its own rock, so it can't wander around the tank, can't get into trouble, can't kill things. So I don't know.
My carpet anemone will not stay still. He travels around. He's up in my Nano tank, and he's never in the same place twice.
Yeah.
But the other fish avoid it, so I mean that's kind of a good thing. But yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with my carpet. He's hosting one of my Clarkies, and it's just, I could sit and watch those two all day, because I mean he will literally wrap himself up in that anemone like a blanket at night and sleep there. And you know, I love that anemone, but I hate the fact that I can't have any corals around the bottom of my tank because he's constantly moving around and casting, he blocks out the light from the other corals. So all my corals up there are up high in the rock, just because of that carpet.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it. And we were talking earlier about fish behavior. Well, for example, when your lavender and your hippo get into it, if one of them darts to the side and happens to contact an anemone, he's toast.
Yeah.
And because most, especially tangs, they don't have the slime coat to protect them. So, that's the kind of thing that worries me, only because I've observed it in my Red Sea tank with the angelfish, the pair of angelfish, and the green wrasse and the Tomini tang. They would get right into it, and the angelfish would go between the rocks, and the Tomini tang would swim across and present her side to the male angel. He would be trying to get out, and she'd be there. She wouldn't let him out, and then she'd move. And the green wrasse, like they would do this all the time. And I would just think, man, if they kind of rebound from each other and I had an anemone, that's what would worry me is accidental contact with it. So
That's
yeah, I don't know.
That's why I haven't moved them down here into the bigger tank.
Yeah.
Especially with this yellow tang. I mean, he's what, $400 now online?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Look at me. I'm getting a purple tang, as I disclosed earlier, because I can't remember who guessed. Peter, I think, from Croatia guessed, but it's 2 inches long. So I'm hoping to bring it up, not to be a jerk, but it was under $100. So like a purple tang for less than $100, and yet the yellows are ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah, my local Petco, I was in there the other day. They had a yellow tang in there. It was donated for adoption, and they were selling it for $79.99. And I really was tempted to scoop it up, but then I'm really afraid to put them in this tank because what's the other, would they get along? Would they school together, or would he just beat them up and kill them? So I thought of the fish before I thought of the money.
Yeah.
Because, it'd be great to have multiple yellow tangs in this tank, and I have the space for it, but how would he be welcomed by the other tangs?
Yep. Well, the other fish I'm getting, like the bucket list fish, I was reading about it, and one recommendation is minimum 125. Another recommendation is a minimum 180. This fish can get to be 16 inches long. So I don't even think minimum 180 would do it.
That'd be
And
tight.
So when you think the fish can't even turn around, like that's the problem Travis has with the Flamingi.
Right.
Big Bertha, she can barely turn around. She's grown and so big and so fast. I would love a Flamingi, but for the same reason, I won't ever get one. Yeah.
We need to have tanks like Andrew Sandler.
Who's Andrew Sandler?
Oh, you've never seen his tank? He's on YouTube. I don't know the actual size of his tank, but it's like an entire room. And
Cool.
Yeah, he posts on Facebook all the time. I think every Friday he posts just a quick little video of his tank to show it off. It's mostly fish only, but he does have some corals in there. But I'm surprised you haven't heard of him.
Yeah, I'll have to check into that. Like I said, I've been so busy, and especially after moving, I feel bad about the channels that I've subscribed to that I haven't kept up with what they're doing. And I keep saying I'm going to sit on the patio and have a binge day just watching YouTube, but I never seem to find the time. Not to mention the patio isn't there yet. That's one of the things you're supposed to do this week. But you picture those summer days when you get up in the morning, get a coffee, you go sit outside. Yeah, that never happens to me. I just don't have the time. So, but I will look into that because I just could stand by I mean, we would go to the Bass Pro Shop, and my husband would just park me beside the big indoor aquarium with all the freshwater fish in it. And I could stand there for hours and just watch them.
Well, you'll definitely enjoy his tank because it is basically like an indoor aquarium.
Taryn says 17,000 gallons. Oh my God.
It
And
was
I think
big.
I've got 600. Holy cow.
Not only is
Wow.
the tank gorgeous to look at, but the way that it's set up in his house is just it's incredible to watch. And like I said, every Friday on Facebook he posts just a 5-minute video of the tank. And I know on YouTube there's a couple videos of the entire setup, and
Right.
it's incredible.
He's not in Texas, is he?
I don't know.
I saw a video, I cannot remember who it was, of a guy that had motorized lighting over his tank that involved skylights. So he had natural light coming into his tank on some kind of a motorized system that moved things around through the day to light up certain areas of his tank. And one of the things I wanted to do originally was put sauna tubes, I always say sauna, solar tubes above this tank to bring in natural light, not as a light source for the tank, just as kind of like a highlight to look a little bit different. But the problem is the peak of this roof faces north and where the tank is, so it would involve too much messing around in the attic to get something in the south peak. It's one of those things that would be way too expensive, not a great return on the money spent, because I had no idea what it would even look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Cindy, I'm gonna have to run because my phone is about to die. So
Yep, it happens, doesn't it? And it's 4:15, and I think it's time I went and did what I said I was going to do, which is actually make something for supper. Taryn says he had has a crazy quarantine system too, with full-time staff working on his tank. I would have to look at this.
yeah,
Cool.
his tank is amazing.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm gonna check into that. All right. Well, seems like good timing to say goodbye for now. And next Saturday will be the regular 8 p.m. Eastern, unless I have to postpone it for some reason, but I'm hoping not. And every week I hope I might have tank news for you, but I half wonder if suddenly I'm going to look out and I'll be getting a phone call and the DHL 53-foot semi is going to be out front of my house. So at this point, I do not know.
We'll definitely need a video on that.
Yep, this one definitely, for sure. All right. Well, thanks, Cue Balls.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's been nice to chat, and I always enjoy that. And we will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Stay safe, everybody. And happy reefing. Oh my God, that's what Gallery Aquatica guy says. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.